now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye? Quiet like the ocean, with the rumble running deep. This is how I see you, when you hide your feels from me. Why you heavy-hearted? Cut the silence, talk to me. Release your mind, get what you need. Easily, we've been falling in disbelief. I think I'm ready for another try, but this feels like the last time. So why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. Why did you say goodbye? It's better to say goodbye. So why did you say goodbye?
Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. And even when it seems like there's no way out, we'll grow a little closer. We water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same, but I'll back, I'll back, I'll back, 'cause we're better together, better as one, better together, better as one, better together, better as one, better together, better as one. Deep minds, we were forced to be alone. Unknowns and nowhere is the same. Grow a little closer, we're water, we flow. All of us together, we're good, we flow. Nothing is the same, but I'll back, I'll back, I'll back. Cause we're better together, better as one, better together, better as one, better together, better as one, better together, better as one. it the same way I do. As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too. Just say that you'll be, say that you'll be. I'd be there for you whenever you need me. Whenever you need me. But you've been holding back. Maybe you're just not ready. Baby, do you feel the same? Or do you feel the pressure? I promise I can take your pain and turn it into pleasure. Into pleasure. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too. As time goes by, my love grows stronger. Can you feel it the same way I do? As time goes by, I can't wait any longer. Just say that you'll be with me too.
Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, ain't nothing stopping us now. Keep running, we coming, we got
What's the challenge? A little bit greater HP for Victor. The boosters up.
Just separation could be the reason why they don't close out this game. Swaying on the top.
I give it, look at my eyes.
There's lying X looking to swing on through on the side of the
We got a lot on the line. Fish with a different approach. While they spend time in the boat.
Close together and grouped up. A good nade might find all they're looking for. Langsy, leg.
Welcome back, everyone. It's a new dawn. It's a new day here for all the teams of the PUBG Mobile Pro League Western Europe Fall. Oh, almost said summer again. I don't know why I keep saying summer, but it is the year 2022. At least got that right. I'm your host, Jason Kappa, joined by Maxman and Kalaris. And guys, Max, let's start off with you, man. We've had a little bit of time off. We've had our first phase finished off here, and phase 2 about to kick off today. I can't wait to see what the teams are going to do.
Yeah, we finally got the big reset we've been talking about for the past week now, and teams that maybe struggled in the first phase have a chance to finally buy themselves back up in the second phase, but it's not going to be easy. We saw a lot of the CIS teams step up big time in the first phase, should I say. So it's still going to be a tough one, but they have a chance to make it back up there.
I imagine at some point in phase 2, we're going to get a CCT out of Kalaris. And if you guys don't know what a CCT is, it's a championship caliber team.
I mean, we were at the tip of it, weren't we, in the last phase? So I think that's probably going to go down here throughout this, and it might end up being either MADBULLS or VIRTUS.PRO, depending on how things continue on. But it seemingly, as I look at our attire, Jason missed the memo on the dress code for today. I'm sorry, Jason. We'll get you on that next time.
All my button-ups are actually at the laundromat right now.
Yeah,
sure. Button-up shorts, though, does that count?
That's fine. Yep, that accepts. Yeah, that's acceptable.
Okay. At least I'm wearing, shorts. But also a big shout out here to Monster Energy, official energy drink partner of PMPL. Max, man, I'm still curious to see what you'll drink a Monster out of. Maybe we can have you drink it out of my belly button.
No, I had another idea. That was definitely not on my list, okay? I have got the can, and I've already done a purchase, so we'll have to wait for it to arrive, but I've got it. It's coming.
You've done a purchase. Okay, all right. I'm curious. I know you have a rowing machine, and I think it's real water. Maybe you replace the water with Monster, and you attach a straw to it while you're on the rowing machine.
Yeah, that's
a water rower.
I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I can't do stuff like that. Something simple, Just we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I got something ready to go.
Okay, well, cool. You guys at home, make sure to check out all of our social medias as well. Not only just ours, which those are extremely important. You also have all of the PUBG Mobile Esports one down below. Maxman, as he acts as the cool magic man here, bringing that up for you guys to take a look at home. Let's take a look though at something that's changed quite a bit here. And Kalaris, actually, right before we went on, he brought it up. The groups have changed here in phase 2. And there's one group in particular that we kind of have our eyes on when it comes to this. It's Group A, because you now have MADBULLS and Na'Vi together in a group.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how this has worked out, of course, because some of the teams that we expected to come out with a lot of clout in phase 1 didn't quite do so, and then they ended up middle of the table. That means that in terms of seeding, let's take a look at Group 1, for example. Group A, it's 1st, 10th, 12th, and 1st, 10th, 12th, 11th even, I should say, and 20th. I got there in the end. But the point is that now, because some of the teams that were pretty strong actually ended up in the middle of the table, they end up with teams like MADBULLS. So already we're seeing this shape up in an interesting way. Group E is also kind of no different in that regard. Very, very powerful across the board, despite some of the kind of disparities in how those teams actually performed in phase 1.
I feel with this group seeding, we have to apologize to XTEAM. Like, they're not going to have a lot of fun in their Group A right now. It's going to be a little bit of a tough one for them. But yeah, I mean, group changes is going to be interesting. It's going to require a lot of changes once again to be made week per week. So you had 4-day break. I'm hoping teams were able to make adaptations. We saw what MADBULLS could do and what they can play around with these group changes, applying every single game. So, man, I would say learn from MADBULLS. And if so, you could definitely start on a high in this second phase.
And teams might need it as well, because those points from the first phase actually get you points into the finals directly. So MADBULLS already sitting on 20 points for themselves, which is going to be even more important when it comes down to PMGC. And we do have a little bit of information to give you guys when it comes to PMGC. Let's actually take a look at the current list, or the current order of where the teams do stand. Because Max, right now, Game Lord, if we were to end today, would be going to PMGC if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. So far, we are sure 100% that first place would be going to PMGC. We're not sure about second, third right now, but Game Lord will be going. But what is very interesting about this second phase in particular, Game Lord and Eastern Stars are in the same group. Is that going to come into play or not? I'm not too sure. But Eastern Stars, if they want to get back in the lead on the PMGC race, they could potentially try and mess around with Game Lord a little bit, potentially contest some early drops, maybe contest some early rotations. Something can come into play. So, man, so far Game Lord should have a big lead, but we saw his last week in particular, that lead could close up really quickly if Game Lord cannot perform.
The crazy thing about this, though, is that the spring offset is quite sizable when you look at this for Game Lord here. So depending on how things go throughout fall, we could see them still retain that position. I mean, I feel like even the 5th place that they were able to gain throughout the first phase is a little bit of a letdown for me, if I'm honest. When I look at this roster and I think this team should be top 3, all things considered. So I think maybe we'll see the rise from them in phase 2 and maybe hold on to that position.
It's actually really weird because I was looking at their stats earlier. They had a part in the middle of the first phase where they just felt invisible. They were just not performing, not getting top results whatsoever. Then at the end, they started stepping up a little bit more, but it is a little bit of an oddity. So Game Lord hopefully can get back on track in the second phase.
You know, there is a world when I'm looking at that MADBULLS, and it's obviously a very far distant world that we haven't even discovered yet, where MADBULLS can somehow catch Game Lord if Game Lord don't have a good phase 2 and phase 3 and don't get into the finals. Like, they got 300 points, 302 the first phase here. Realistically, they could come out with 900 points going into the finals, and then they can push it from there. It's going to be difficult, but that'd be really interesting to see if possible. So Game Lord, yeah, looking on track here to get into PMGC to join all the other teams out there around the world. But let's take a look, though, at another race. Not the PMGC one, but the MVP one, because you do get extra money as well for being the MVP at the end of the event. If I'm not mistaken, it should be Effect, if I remember correctly. Yeah, coming in at 2.16, but Zerich right behind him at 2.16 as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to explain also the MVP points currently, what they take into account is eliminations, your knocks, your total damage, your survival time. It takes basically every single aspect of the game into account. So the higher it is, basically the better stats you have off that one. So he's currently tied up with also Zerich in the MVP position was 2.16. But one thing that I found very interesting is that we are not seeing MUERTE up there anymore. He was one of our top fraggers for the longest portion of phase 1, and he's fell off now. QODEX as a whole has kind of fell off, and Old Boy, seen him up there, not too surprising. And Tulika is just beneath Narvalo in 6, so you potentially are going to be having 2 other players of VIRTUS.PRO in this top 5 leaderboard for MVP, so it's going to be close towards the top.
I think the main thing for QODEX when you look at MUERTE is that, like, they had a great first week, and a lot of the eliminations that were coming their way were strong and in MUERTE's favor. But beyond that, they definitely had a fall, and then all of the other aspects, never mind eliminations around that, then falls quite dramatically, right? So that's probably where that fall has come from.
Yeah, especially survival time as well, right? If you get knocked out early, that's a massive knock to your ranking. But as we do see, obviously, Old Boy in the top 5 when it comes to the MVP. With QODEX falling, VIRTUS.PRO kind of risen actually through that failure, I guess we should say, out of QODEX after that first day of play here. And we wanted to dive a little bit deeper into our top 2 teams at the moment, because honestly, these 2 teams are kind of setting the pace. So MADBULLS up against VIRTUS.PRO when it comes to the first 3 days of play. And honestly, MADBULLS have just been so kind of consistent this entire event so far that I almost want to say, Kalaris, that they're our CCT.
I would, at present, agree, even though I think it was VIRTUS.PRO that I said it at the end of phase 1.
Okay.
Regardless of the fact, I think that both of them are standout teams as a whole. Both of them are being coached by players that I've known for a long time when it comes to esports, and you can kind of see those influences in the gameplay as well, in terms of their decisiveness when they're moving to compounds and things like that overall, and kind of choosing which kind of prime locations to hold up in. I think overall, though, for VIRTUS.PRO, the amount of 3rd places and 2nd places that they were starting to really gain traction with throughout, I think it's like the last couple of days of phase 1, really bodes well for them. I think by the end of this phase, I think if VIRTUS.PRO keeps that up, I think they'll be #1 at the end of phase 2.
Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that we saw from VIRTUS.PRO what we wanted to see from like a TJB, from a Na'Vi, right? Which is improvement throughout a single phase, having that 4-day break in the middle of phase 1 to make some changes, make some adaptations, and come back stronger in the last 3 days of that first phase. They haven't saw it for those teams, but VIRTUS.PRO, as you said, like really stepped up a lot of like podium finishes towards the end. So if they start off this phase and finish this phase on that same level, I think they could not only be the first place of this phase, but of the entire tournament so far. Because don't forget that if you want to qualify in the finals, you're going to put the rankings of each phase together. So if you combine phase 2 and phase 1 together, and if VIRTUS.PRO step up, they could definitely be first here.
You know, looking at their prior results as well here, if you can take off like VIRTUS.PRO's maybe first 8 matches, because as I'm looking through it, right, their best was a 4th place with 1 elimination, then their initial game of 9th place with 8 eliminations. Like, that was their 2 best games, and MADBULLS had 2 chicken dinners in the same amount of time. I wonder if you take away those first 8 matches out of both these 2 teams, how close are they realistically then on the leaderboards? Because VIRTUS.PRO was very misleading on the first day or 2.
Yeah, exceedingly close, because of the fact that MADBULLS, of course, had like a 60-point of, well, almost 60-point lead over them by the end of phase 1. If you do kind of deduct that, it would be extremely close. I mean, we can't really do that, you know, Captain Hindsight and all that stuff, but I'm hopeful for VIRTUS.PRO for this phase 2. Likewise, to be fair though, I'm kind of hopeful for MADBULLS as well, because they just looked excellent throughout the whole tournament when it came to phase 1. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and as we're talking about, you know, potentially taking those matches out, we can actually just focus in then on the last 3 days of the first phase. Let's dive into day 4, 5, and 6 here between these 2 teams, and you'll see that VIRTUS.PRO are actually playing better than MADBULLS, at least when it comes to the stats.
Yeah, a lot more eliminations coming in for VIRTUS.PRO at the end. I think they're just feeling a lot more comfortable. They're used to the lobby by now, and they, as you said, they used those 4 days to make some really big adaptations for VIRTUS.PRO. They feel a lot quicker on their rotations. They get in better spots a lot quicker, and of course, because of that, you get a lot more podium finishes, and if you get in the late game, you get a lot more eliminations. It goes hand in hand, basically. So, yeah, I think, once again, the VIRTUS.PRO is looking like a top contender here. They took a little bit of time to heat up to the lobby. Now my question is, are we going to see that from other teams potentially? I think that Na'Vi is still a team that we all have on the end of our tongues right now that we want to see step up. And I think they could try and bring the VIRTUS.PRO treatment here, but yeah, VIRTUS.PRO and MADBULLS are just looking like top-tier contenders throughout this event.
I think I could safely say, Colors, here that they're kind of setting the pace for the entire lobby. Now, there isn't like a big difference between VIRTUS.PRO and Death Machine. It's about 21 points, but it seems like they are the ones putting the pace in for everyone else to play at.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rude awakening for Western Europe in general in terms of having to play out this league stage against these teams that have come in. And to be fair, a few of them didn't really have the greatest start, but once they'd really warmed into the lobby, as Max is alluding to, they really started kind of putting the pedal to the metal. I mean, PIONER is also up there with them as we take a look at them actually being shot down on a Miramar game. But VIRTUS.PRO, towards the later stages of everything, it's not only did they didn't really catch circles in a lot of their podium finishes. They were kind of in a pretty rough area where they then have to either hunker down against teams that are encroaching on them, or actually moving their way in and doing some kind of very, very nice sweeps towards the edges of circles. So I've got a lot of respect for how VIRTUS.PRO is currently playing things, and I think they've got a lot of power behind them too.
And that's a little bit of the differences, I think, between the 2 teams, Max, is that MADBULLS, to me at least, are a team that like to center up not as early as possible, but like to get center zone as quick as possible, and they kind of play from there. I mean, yeah, they're good at it, but then as you're saying, Clarence, VIRTUS.PRO playing more of the edge game and having to actually push into a zone.
I think we saw that on one of the last Miramars, actually, of phase 1, where VIRTUS.PRO had one of the most amazing breaches on. Actually, it was MADBULLS' position inside of San Martin, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that breach was really top 10, showed to me, okay, this team can really fight despite not having like the best positions in the world. MADBULLS sure might be faster on their macro to get access to the positions, but if you have VIRTUS.PRO breaching on you, their team synergy in the fight is so good. And you have Old Boy there. I think it goes without saying that Old Boy and Tulika together as a duo is exceptionally well rounded out. So yeah, I think that they're still looking at contenders, but there's a lot of teams I still want to see step up around them. So sure, they're setting the pace, but hopefully teams can follow that pace in the second phase.
Yeah, and one of those teams I think we're looking to see step up is kind of not necessarily that reigning champion, because they didn't win when it came to the finals, but at least when it came to the league stage, they were champions. Game Lord, the #1 team at the moment for PMGC. If we ended off today, they would be going. But this team, as we take a look at their player stats, hasn't played terribly. I mean, they're 5th place. They're doing better than the champions of Western Europe are currently. But I still think like we're expecting a bit more out of them.
I mean, we almost got a false positive start for them almost, right, as well. When they had their first game of phase 1, they win it with 10 eliminations, and then they find themselves in MUERTE in a very wide split, but it pays off in the end as they kind of consolidate and get together. But since then, yeah, they had a few podium finishes here and there, but a win didn't come until the very end of the phase for Game Lord. And this is a team we're expecting not to have 2 wins across 30 rounds. We're expecting more than that from them, and we expect more because we've seen it in previous seasons. So I want that to come along.
I think John and Blanco mentioned it also on the cast a few times, that it still feels like it is very heavily the Narvalo and Victor show a lot of the time for the side of GameLord, which, you know, it's pretty much what we had from the previous season and it worked out, but now that you have a lobby with all these new CIS teams running the rounds, it's going to be a lot more complicated. I actually got reached out by Narvalo and apparently they found some of the intricate issues they had in the first phase and they're going to make changes based on that, so we could expect on the second phase a better GameLord, but will the changes be enough seeing the caliber of this lobby? That's another question we'll have to wait and see.
I'm curious if one of those intricate things was that Maxman's not predicting them to win that often anymore. You were originally the curse, and then you became the blessing, and now just don't know who you are anymore.
There's no antagonist to go up against now. I don't know. No villain. Maybe I got to start again. I'll check out. Yeah.
So first game, you're already committed to GameLord now.
Sure, let's do it. Are they playing? I don't want to.
Not playing the first match.
They're not playing the first one. Okay, no. Second game.
All right, well, let's take a look at our schedule. If you guys were with us last week, you know it's on a 3-day rotating cycle. So we're starting things off on the first day of Phase 2 with double Erangels and double Miramars. Then, of course, tomorrow we'll be heading over into double Sanhoks and double Erangels. And on the final day, we're doing double Erangels. Sorry, double Miramars, double Sanhok final day, double Erangels, and double Sanhok tomorrow, if I correct myself. And you can see, of course, which groups are playing as well. So no Group E initially off the bat. But I'm really curious to see if teams have adapted a bit. Again, we saw a lot of teams changing drop locations. Well, not a lot of teams. TJB changing drop locations when we got to Sanhok. I wonder if we're going to have any shuffles happen from that first phase into the second.
I think there might be a few coming up, especially because of the group changes. I think it goes without saying. But one team that I'm hoping has made some really good changes is Unicorns of Love. We didn't talk too much about them when it came to massive improvement, but they've been, I would say, steadily improving day after day after day and being able to just slowly get high in the rankings. Currently, they were in 7th position in Phase 1. Definitely not a bad position, especially for a roster that's had a lot of changes, but I think they're getting there. So I think we could also, just like GameLord, hopefully expect a little bit more from the Unicorns this week.
Okay, well, the teams are competing. We also have a little bit of a competition going on between us, and it comes into our prediction game, which Kalaris is absolutely destroying us, Max. Even if you combined our scores, we would still be behind Kalaris at the moment.
We should
but
combine
we have a chance. We have a chance to catch up to him here with our pre-show quiz. And here is our quiz of the day. Icy from Unicorns of Love used to train soccer at a pro club youth team, but he stopped to play PUBG Mobile. Now, I think we all originally said yes, but there were some last-second changes.
Because I voted yes too. that's the reason. Okay.
That might be the reason.
Okay, I went with
so Max
yes.
voted yes. Kalaris and I voted no. So let's see who's getting that point.
Come on. Oh, let's go. You all changed. That's what you get. That's what you get.
It's so common a story, actually, in esports as well. We see it in PUBG Mobile a few times. We've seen it in other esports. And I was like, no, there's no way it's this common. But apparently it bloody well is.
I was actually going to be a professional American footballer, if you can tell by my frame, right?
I thought you were a basketball guy. No?
I'm ahead of Jason. Yeah.
For now,
for everything.
But we're still behind Kalaris, even if you combine. I don't believe it was 11. I think it was like 10. I think they added
11
points.
No,
production are helping you out. No. We'll have to ask production.
Don't worry. Yeah. I've been keeping track on it.
Of course you have. I know you.
Yes.
You're taking this so seriously, aren't you?
I'm going to win.
Don't worry, Max. We have a ton of time here left to catch up to him. We just have to start working together on our predictions and, stop picking the team that I'm going for, because clearly you're the one making me lose.
I picked before you most of the time. Okay, fair enough. We can get a strategy. We'll get strat in. And I got my monster today, so that'll help out. I'll have my prediction game on point, maybe. I don't know.
Well, now you set yourself up for failure, because if it's just as bad as prior days, then even Monster can't save you, Max.
Take that monster away from him. Take it away.
All right, well, we are about to head into our first match of the day. Of course, it's going to be John Allen Blank as well. And I'm really excited. We saw teams improve from Phase 1 to Phase 2 in the time they had off. But now we're going from first half of Phase 1 to the second half of Phase 1. Now we're going from Phase 1 to Phase 2 with some extra time off. We saw a lot of teams that improve, but I'm curious what teams will improve now. So let's throw it back to our commentators for the first time of the day with John Allen Blank.
Friendship with Phase 1. Over. Friendship with Phase 2. That's what we're on right now. We're going into the second phase. We're going to get some more bonus points for these teams. Blank, you excited?
I'm super excited, man. I'm ready to go. I'm just as excited as Jason. I like that, you mentioned that there's some teams that improved. Now, teams improve in Phase 2. Wow, that's really cool news. However, what I don't like is collusion on the desk. That is unacceptable behavior between Jason and Max. A strategy? You don't need a strategy. You just need to get good. That's all it comes down to. Obviously, I'm not predicting anything in these games because I know that perhaps I would just blow everyone out the water.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fair.
So I just won't predict anyway. So yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be fair in these games, John. But starting off the day with Erangel, like Jason said, double Erangel, double Miramar today with one cheeky Sanhok squeezed in between. However, it is going straight into it. We have MADBULLS and Na'Vi, obviously part of Group A and Group D, with our 2 European representatives of Eastern Star, as well as Game Lord, and a few others who haven't quite as impressed as much as those two. But yeah, we don't have the 2 powerhouses in the Eastern Stars and Game Lord playing this game, but we do have Na'Vi versus MADBULLS. See what they can do here.
Yeah, obviously Na'Vi not having the best of phase 1s, right? And coming into this phase, it really is their chance to start to step up. Because once you get sort of at least halfway through that first phase, it becomes a little bit more stuck in the mire. It can feel a little bit more tarry, difficult to move forwards, right? But when you come in fresh scores, fresh everything, hopefully it's a chance for them to reset, get that mental back on board, and get some strong performances on the cards. MADBULLS, you can see them up there at the top. Na'Vi, normally going to be dropping out early towards North George. See what they can go for on this playing path.
It's a bit of an awkward playing path, actually. Very, very much towards that north side, heading towards Stalba. Few rotational paths available. Big, most likely going to be dropping towards Severna. You are right, John. The Na'Vi heading straight up towards North George. Pioneer, though, close by, and towards Hospital. They haven't really made a massive amount of ruckus down the Hospital, and hopefully no one's making a ruckus in the Hospital in the first place. However, last phase, in the last week, Pioneer were looking a lot more aggressive in those final games, John. And it was a change that I was really pleased to see. It's one thing that I think Pioneer absolutely had to update themselves on. I think it was almost a similar approach to what VIRTUS.PRO made, in which case VIRTUS.PRO suddenly realized that we have Old Boy and Chulika on the team, and they're both very good at the game. Let's use that.
I feel that that's a pretty good way to use people who are good at the game, right?
Yeah.
Get them out there, get them performing. Early drop for Na'Vi, they did head up to North George, like you said, grabbing some vehicles and regrouping there. Late drops, and that is a circle and a half for this playing path.
Yeah, that is actually completely opposite to where the playing path headed over towards, isn't it? That is unfortunate.
True.
Yeah, Unicorns are going to get a nice start on this one, though. They dropped out early down towards the fields of Gattaca, down towards the south, head towards the eastern side of Quarry, picked up some vehicles, and we're going to just immediately send it in. MADBULLS are hot on their tail, though. You can see them there. They're rotating just underneath Quarry. They do have a couple of players that are about a couple of hundred. I'd say a kilometre behind, a couple of hundred turned to a kilometre real quick there. So I think Unicorns of Love should be safe for the time being.
Oh, looks like we've got a little bit of a scrap, DeMuerte and Take Aim Gaming. There was definitely a knock there. I think there was a flush, and DeMuerte lose a player to Take Aim Gaming early on these vehicle drops on the east side of Yasnaya. Looking to move down the coastline. It looks like Take Aim Gaming might be looking to head down towards Lipovka, but could also be going for this regroup around some of the DeMuerte players. I think it's Striker has a vehicle. Moving through, we're probably going to look to regroup, get back to safety. Some sort of security. Pickups going on, but DeMuerte are down to 3, so I doubt they want to take any more engagements.
Yeah, I think considering the position you're currently in, which is over towards the east side of Yaz, might just want to move back down again. Though there is certainly opportunity to loot up in Yasnaya. You're not getting away from Mind there. He's got the big brain. He's going to spot you in the bush. Can't hide like that anymore. People are getting wise to that type of thing since the days of Ryzen and Miramar.
See his little boots poking out the end of the bush. Got to be careful.
The trainers!
They could be anywhere. Could be anywhere. Na'Vi moving. Continue
tall.
fairly good. Well, yeah. I mean, continuing to move. MADBULLS looting up. Fairly close right now to the forward guard from Shockwave. This is already on the military island, so fast maneuvers here.
Yeah, these guys move down nice quick. They dropped towards Quarry and they just flew in from that south side. Unicorns of Love, they were always intended to head down towards Nova Apnoia. They're quite stubborn on that front, heading to that position of the map. I mean, MUERTE's caught them out a few times because of it, just scrapping over vehicles. This time they pick up vehicles in Gatka, fairly uncontested as well. Instead of heading towards Nova Apnoia, because this is fairly certain to be like a Sosnovka finish, right? I think it's fair enough to try and take C block there for Unicorns of Love and really control this area. So for Unicorns of Love, I think this is a smart decision, it's a quick decision, and it's a game-winning decision, right? It might not work out in their favor if you get like an Eastern shift or a Western shift, but I do like this confidence for Unicorns of Love. They have been thwarted right at the finish line fair few times so far in a lot of these matches, especially in phase 1, and not just able quite to take the trophy home or that chicken dinner. But this time they're looking pretty good for themselves.
Ooh, Nexus might be up to spoil the party though. North side rotation coming through from them. They came over, I believe, the west bridge behind SHOCKWAVE. Both MADBULLS and SHOCKWAVE making that push across the western bridge, and now Nexus looking to take the hills north of C block, north of that military base. Not wanting to take the fight though, they're playing a little bit further back and actually moving away. TJB crossed on the eastern bridge blank, and they've spread out over Novo and around the compounds on the mouth of the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, they're not too far forward that they're trying to defend the bridge at the moment. It's not a gatekeep, right? This is more a case of get people looted in Novo, make sure you know exactly who's coming through on that eastern bridge. You know, a Tinker holding on one of the compounds that does have high grounds. I think this is the 3-story he's currently in. So this gives him like quite a bit of advantage just in terms of information gathering. They might not necessarily want to try and stop some people getting in, but taking a few pot shots, maybe blowing out some tires, even getting just one knock on the crossing would be more than enough, because you can regroup off the back of that and clear some space on that side. There are a fair few teams now coming in from the north who were kind of on that middle split right between school, Gatka, prison, and this gives them the opportunity to at least get onto the coastal side, and they're kind of in the middle of the queue at the moment. They're just waiting to head towards the island, whereas a lot of these teams that have hard committed towards the very north, for Romanian men, Big and Severny, Navi, and PIONER towards Georgopol, these teams will really have to wait this one out, John.
It's going to be a struggle for them, certainly. I mean, maybe for PIONER, it might even be a case of try and find a boat around the coastal areas that they're near in Georgopol and swing down to the south side, or some other weighted out kind of scheme if they've got enough meds to supply themselves for that. But you're right, it's going to be a little bit of trouble on the side. MADBULLS, SHOCKWAVE, again, close to one another, both on the south coast, and actually MADBULLS get ahead of the game on getting the compound on the south side.
Yeah, I think their main prerogative there was just kind of shunt the SHOCKWAVE guys down towards the beach, because MADBULLS, it seems like always was going to be their landing post, right? As long as SHOCKWAVE doesn't get too close to them, it looks like they had M4s on board with potentially 3Xs, etc. They were going to be absolutely fine to take anyone coming towards this compound. But this is a nice spot to be. For teams towards that north, like, it's quite difficult to get down here in the first place because you have to move through so many teams, considering this is practically a Sosnovka finish, you know, barring any crazy stunts at the circle, pulls and heads up towards that north side. You know, MADBULLS is going to be very safe here just because they have so many teams ahead of them towards the north side of Sosnovka that will be protecting this spot.
Sprays from TJB. They want to hold their position near Novo. You can see Death Machine move through in convoy past their location. NEXUS backed off by a tickle from the spray down TJB sent their way, but Hamodi is actually the one trapped and might actually be looking to go on the roadside. Gets through. Okay, the attention drawn to some of the other players. Hang on a minute. There was a knock over towards NASA, and now they're on the chase for Hamodi. TJB starting to turn it around just a little bit, maybe a little bit more aggressive. A spin out on the buggy, but no one's really there to spray it down. Not just yet. Hamodi can get back up to speed. But Tinker is on the chase, on the hunt. They want to follow this one down south, but you've got to be careful. You do not want to be running into the jaws of a trap.
Yeah, I think that we mentioned this earlier, right? It's about getting those tire pops, or getting maybe a couple of knocks and a flush, which they do onto NASA. But again, this is that tunnel vision we talked about earlier from TJB. They're sent so far down towards Death Machine's position. You see them desperately floundering to get back up into the spot. And MUERTE was just about to make a run for it. Now, this is a Sosnovka finish 100% now, and MUERTE is getting geared up and ready to go across. And TJB was almost not in position because it was so focused on finishing off the remaining players from Death Machine. They were about to let the Eastern Bridge just be completely free, which would have been a huge mistake.
Would not have been ideal, but luckily that gap was not filled. Luckily for TJB, and they take down a player from Death Machine, so their threat from the south is slightly reduced. With the circle as it is, guaranteed Sanhok military base finish, so everyone will have to make that cross no matter what. VP, they weren't holding out that western bridge. They weren't really suppressing Na'Vi's rotation, and Na'Vi are now all the way down over towards Team Doom on the southwest side of the island. VP moving further inland as well. They make the break for the military base.
I mean, when you have this circle and you're already in, you don't want to be spending too much time towards those bridges anymore. There is just not many areas you can play. I mean, there's a lot of cover here, but realistically, like with the amount of angles that are provided around this circle, you could hide behind this plane we're passing by right now, and the people in front of the plane, yeah, sure, they can't get to you at all, but there's going to be someone on high ground behind you that will take shots. So there's very few ideal positions in this circle that are very good in terms of like game-winning spots. Unicorn's Love does take one of them nice and early and have a split along that around the military base and could potentially move towards airstrip if they need to. XTEAM, unfortunately, though, I mean, the guys stayed at the beginning of the day. It's like a rough lobby to be in. Well, a rough group to be in. They're two of the best teams at the moment.
True.
I just struggle bus, right?
True, but I don't think this is because it's Na'Vi. This is just a not great position for XTEAM, right? Na'Vi rotated in and took a position on the south side fairly swiftly after they'd made that crossing. XTEAM, they started off in Primorsk and actually rotated through on the boat to the south side as well. It would have been spotted around the headland. It would have been scouted out. They tried to land here, and Na'Vi have just shut them down entirely. But I don't think that's purely because they're Na'Vi. I don't think that's a Na'Vi special, if you understand.
Oh, no. I wouldn't say it's a Na'Vi special at all, although Na'Vi has held out many teams in the past.
Hang on a minute. Did VIRTUS.PRO just get wiped by unicorns?
It would seem that way. I mean, they were rotating fairly dangerously just in a random circle over towards the airstrip. They were looking for somewhere to go, potentially even to crash onto Unicorns of Love's position. But Unicorns of Love, 4 eliminations, only 1 knocked, 1 flushed as well, so there are 3 players. But yeah, shame we didn't get to see that. Hopefully there's a replay. Unfortunately, we're watching Team Doom getting wiped on the coastal side. X-Team, sorry. You were right, though, John. They did have all the time in the world down towards Primorsk to rotate through. And they actually made this rotate a long, long time before Na'Vi, by the way, up in North George. So it is curious why they did land here. I'm not saying it's because part of the group. I'm just saying it's a rough group to be in overall for X-Team. Who need to really pull things up, right? It's like,
here's the thing.
It's going to be a little bit difficult.
Here's the thing, right? You're in this group, but also that's going to have an impact on the rest of the lobby, right? So you're playing against all these other players, and they're also going to be thinking, oh, there's these other teams. Maybe we should be a bit more cautious. So, you know, maybe there's a little bit more ground to be gained there. You can sort of
perhaps
reverse.
Let's hope. Yeah,
you can reverse it. I'm really trying to pull for X-Team right now, but all right, I'll be honest. It's not looking great.
It's not looking great, is it? Pioneer, QODEX is another one going down. I think we are starting to get some almost stability within the lobby in terms of power levels of teams. I think through phase 1 and phase 2, I think everyone's kind of feeling one another out. But at the moment, I feel like everyone's fairly comfortable with one another. They know their limits. They know what they can start to pull in these lobbies. That's particularly true in VIRTUS.PRO, who are looking a lot more aggressive. However, I think that one of the only teams that continues to kind of surprise is Unicorns of Love. Even if that is a case of surprising that you didn't win that game or surprising that you did win that engagement.
Speaking of engagements, looks like QODEX have found themselves in one against Pioneer. And there's the spray down from the back. The flush comes in. 2 forward players on that push across the western bridge. Not going well for QODEX. Pioneer shutting that down, but they have to move east on this next circle. MADBULLS swinging in on the south side again, moving across this ground. Fairly quiet so far, but Death Machine are quite by, and they're not going to let it go quietly either. Xeric swings around the headland, able to get up and pass back into the foliage cover of that tree, and returns to the rest of the team.
It's actually a really nice spot for MADBULLS. they don't have a huge amount of cover here. You will really have to use these vehicles to your advantage. However, you can get down towards this bottom lip, and this is fine for you now. You can effectively just kind of poke up over the top of the ridge side, have a cheeky peek, see what's happening, and then play from here. They will have to be very careful for Romanian men over towards the east, but this is the replay we're looking for, Joe.
Okay, so VP wanted this position out on the near the airstrip on the south side, and the Unicorns were absolutely ready for it. They were set up with those crossfires. Okay, so they just did get taken down out in the open. It's unfortunate, but that's sometimes just how it goes.
I mean, it's what we were talking about before. Is a case of it looks like there should be a lot of cover there, but realistically, there just isn't. There is so much opportunity, and you use the keyword there, John, which is crossfires. Like, it's very difficult to deal with. Again, though, that's Icy stepping up big time for Unicorns alone. I think that's a double knock from him right off the bat with some assistance of his teammates, but still some very, very accurate shooting from him.
MUERTE with 2 left now. Striker forward, English left behind. A little bit in the dust there, but does have a buggy, and TJB seem to be moving away from this location, moving from this bridge guard, which kind of goes against the sort of the idea of them being stuck with tunnel vision too heavily. But perhaps it would have been a better idea to keep an eye out that way, because Take Aim Gaming are going to use that opportunity. Big, in the meantime, landed over de novo in their boat, and will have to move further inland on this next circle.
Yeah, just a wee bit. I don't know. I feel like TJB could have moved a little bit earlier to maybe somewhere a bit more central. I don't think holding the bridge matters anymore. I think, you know, we saw that from Na'Vi, who just said, sod it, we don't really want to hold this bridge because it just doesn't matter at this point in time. We just need a better position within the circle to play around with. Which they have done now. They're right on that southwest side because they've just continued to move. Whereas TJB is now kind of caught in an awkward position between teams coming in from the eastern bridge, like Take Aim Gaming, as you said, as well as teams in front of them of NEXUS and Death Machine, who were the team that eluded them earlier on. But they should have realistically done enough damage to them to start hunting them down later once they had realized that, you know, now it's Sosnovka, it's come over towards our side, let's find a better position to play in. Luckily, they are able to find at least 1 knock over towards Take Aim Gaming. We'll see how this fight does conclude.
Top of the hill, TJB take the observatory. Spray downs, GK First getting back up with the sight lines from the rest of the squad. Mind swings past, swings around, Toffees as well. Manages to get cover, and 2 of Take Aim Gaming make the gauntlet.
Still, open ground ahead of them. Both in the same vehicle. Things go with the M60. Not the most ideal weapons, but as a pseudo DMR from that height, it does work out for you. So, happy days. Indeed. You don't always get blessed with the best weapons in the world, but you make do, right?
Certainly going to be effective in the hands of some of these players. Certainly TJB at the moment. NEXUS, 3 players alive. On the north side of this next circle, near to Take Aim Gaming, TJB kind of slowing anyone pushing towards NEXUS's position, and that's going to give them a lot of security until TJB have to move.
MADBULLS at the moment, I think, is one we have to be curious about. Down towards southeast, they do have skills in a weird spot at the moment. You can't see him on the map at the moment, but he is down towards right on that southeast side, scouting out for Romanian before coming back to the team. Mihi, fortunately, will get flushed there. I was actually just about to talk about Big John as well, considering their rotation coming in from Severny. That guy's got to be absolutely battered on the approach coming into this circle, and they wanted a little bit of respite, but they've immediately found a fight.
Na'Vi getting the rundown, should be able to get this res here on the southwest side. This is the remnants of XTEAM, I believe. Unicorn spotted by Na'Vi as well. Crypto dodges back behind the cover there. They still have yet to get Tixie up. Are they going to go for this? Are they going to slow it down and maybe lose that position? Speaking of losing positions, Big moved straight on up against TJB. 2 players down for TJB. Looks like the one still remaining close, SHOCKWAVE for Big. Tries to push in, tries to put some nades in, but Lin shuts him down. 2 players down for TJB, and they hold the east edge.
Goodness me. That actually went a lot better than expected. I think they were able to capitalize on that. Again, they're right on the edge of this circle. Luckily, with this little bit of high ground, you know, they are also isolated from most of the players in this circle looking down towards them. I think that was a Na'Vi prediction coming through from Claris, and I believe another Pioneer coming through from Jason. Don't quite remember though. It was only on the screen for a very, very short amount of time. But I'm sure we'll find out at the end of the game when the analyst and the host begin to gloat over who won, because I think that was all separate predictions that are coming through. TJB, 8 eliminations this game. Very, very nicely done. And Pioneer bringing some of that aggression that we talked about earlier back into phase 2 with 6 eliminations so far and a full squad of 4 up.
Next circle looking a little bit sparser for presence right now. Take Aim Gaming, Nexus close to one another. I say Take Aim Gaming, I mean the last player for Take Aim Gaming. Shockwave taking the fight with Team Doom 1-for-1, and flush out comes good for Shockwave. Finds another. Frosty falls down behind the tree. Angles being spotted out for Shockwave in their 4v4 fight here, and Team Doom are seemingly really, really struggling. Easy, too far away to make anything of it. And Coney can get res. Shockwave stay up at 4.
I mean, I don't think many teams are going to stay up as 4 for very, very long. You look over towards the western side of this circle where the circle has headed. This is probably the most barren bit of the airstrip that they have. There's not a lot of planes here, not a lot of cover to play around with. This is just going to be an all-out brawl from a lot of these teams. Na'Vi up to 7 eliminations, but Matic does go down to a nasty nade that comes over the top from Trazen.
Just before the wipe as well. Far from ideal for Na'Vi. All the way at the back, you can see the other duo on your screen right now, Kitsune and Meku. They're all the way in the circle. So Matic going down there leaves them up in just that duo in their tiny little corner of what is seemingly to develop into a little bit of a hell here for most of these teams.
I mean, that was a lot of eliminations stolen by the guys from MADBULLS too. Can't get anywhere in. Na'Vi were ready for this though. They spotted the approach of these players from MADBULLS. Unicorns of Love also have eyes on towards Zeresh. TJB back on board with them. With Death Machine that they were up against. Keep coming into contact with these players, but TJB are on an absolute tear at the moment.
They are dominating from the eastern side. They swung down. They had that high ground. They've transitioned off it well. And they're taking a fight or two to earn that place. Na'Vi want to stop this push, and they will be able to do so. I think it was Na'Vi to find that final elimination there. Meku got the spray down. Pioneer taking chances with Unicorns of Love, but will come out on top. Death Machine still locked horns with TJB as Zhao pushes forwards. Modi gets the back line, turns it around, and there's plenty of players going down. Oh no, Tigska! Oh, TJB! Go down to the 2 players from Death Machine. There were third parties coming on through, but that is disaster.
I am astonished that they let that happen, and it's the fact that they throw that smoke down and just let him wander through while someone's medding. But yeah, that's it. Again, that's that unorganized nature of TJB. As soon as other teams start coming flying into the fight, some third parties, some shots from elsewhere, the focus really breaks down for that team. I do have to commend them though. 13 points last game is still very, very good, and they got a fair amount of eliminations too. It looks better than previous, although TJB is like a roller coaster. They are up and then they are down, and then you don't know when you're back up again.
I mean, poor Maxman on the TJB hype train. That was shut down.
You know, I believe before, Max, okay? I believe before. Don't anymore.
That's fair. Na'Vi with 2 players on the south side. They've been holding in their tiny little corner for quite a while, and they've been doing it fairly effectively. I mean, there's not a lot of cover there for them to play around, but nobody's pushed onto it just yet. Pioneer, though, trying to push past Nexus into this next circle.
I mean, any kind of cover is good cover in this circle. I think this is where we pretty much had one of our final games in Western Europe Spring as well, where Giants were able to ladder up into 4th place, I believe. It's not a nice spot to play in, and it requires so many smokes to make it effective. And you see Pioneer have just kind of splurged all theirs on the side of the hill at the moment, just for any kind of protection. We'll see how much further they can go. They do have Nexus down towards the south side. Na'Vi now down to just 1, but with 9 eliminations, it's still a good game. They'd love to ladder up just a little bit more, and I think he can kind of just hang out for the time being. Kitsune doesn't really have to send too many more shots in.
Octavian spotted. Unicorns will take that one. Might be able to get the flush. Pioneer, forward player, taking on Doran. Not going to go well. Caught out just in time for Doran to spray it down. Octavian regroups, and now they want to go for this res. They know that Pioneer are going to have to commit. Maybe go for some reses. They're getting peppered on the hillside. That's a nade over the top. Don't think it's going to quite land there. But it was dead close. Look at that. Doran gets Octavian back to the feet. Now it's just black-white on the northeast side.
Yeah, I mean, black-white was hoping to stop these two players from getting down the hill. Now he kind of has to go up the hill to try and take them down. So overall, the worst scenario possible for him. Tries to climb up, but Unicorns Love have very good eyes on. This is the time for Unicorns Love to transition. This is where they surprise us by actually getting the chicken dinner, which they typically do deserve. And I said it right at the beginning of the game, John. They chose the game-winning spot. They were confident about it, quickly went into this position, and have held it with some very good crossfires. I don't think they've tried to get involved in too many fights. A little bit worried of getting third-partied. Overall, this has been a very, very wonderful game from Unicorns Love, constantly picking some very strong spots. Even this one with a little bit of high ground. The vehicles they were able to maintain has given them enough cover. Icy, though, been aggressive, scared.
Oh, Doran down. Icy takes that one out. Unicorns of Love. I mean, I was gonna bring up the fact that you predicted them, but you toot your own horn well enough, sir. I shall leave that one to you.
Don't worry.
Octavian left high and potentially dry here. Has got a vehicle, but has to run it into the blue for it. Spraying out over towards Crypto, who is breaking out wide to push in and cover off these angles. Last player from Na'Vi still going, and it could be a Unicorns win here. If they play their cards right, it should be a Unicorns win here.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly how you feel right now, John, because it's like, it should be. It's 1v3, but we've seen many things go wrong before.
Oh, that's going to go right, though. Run down with the buggy to finish it off. It's Crypto sending straight on in that takes Na'Vi down and brings Unicorns their chicken dinner.
I like how they had no hesitation out. They're like, look, I'm sorry, Kitsune, but we have to win this game. We have to win it now. We're doing it decisively. It's going to be easy peasy. You're along the fence. I'm just going to send the buggy down, mate, unfortunately for you. But yeah, very, very good game from Unicorns Love. Able to get that chicken dinner on board. Oh, praise the Lord, finally, for Unicorns Love. It's taken a while, but it feels like the team is really starting to come into their own. Again, it is kind of a roster been rebuilt around Icy, and they found some good players to do it in, and it was sort of expected for this to take around about 2 weeks to really get back on board. They've had that break now to figure out where things can go right, maybe things can get a little bit better. And I think this game is a perfect opportunity for them to show us what they've got. And I think my favorite thing about this is that they were a little bit more passive over on that Western side. They didn't have to take too many fights. They didn't want to draw too much attention to themselves, John, and instead just go for that chicken dinner when they realistically had the best opportunity to do it.
Yeah, it's always good to see the Unicorns back on form. I think that's what I'm going to take away from this game. But there's some more takes from this game, and they're going to be over on the analyst desk.
Oh, there's a lot of takes here, and a lot to break down just from the commentary we were giving while watching the match, Maxman in particular, but we'll get to that in a few seconds here. As Unicorns Love turned out to be the dream killers. I think Clarus, he's kind of said it best. The position they had were just shooting down every team trying to transition into these later zones. They ruined my dream, they ruined your dream. Maxman's dream we'll touch on in a second.
Yeah, I suppose.
Not dream anymore. I gave up. Yeah.
Oh, indeed. Well, we all know how your predictions go. But obviously, yeah, for the Unicorns Love, this is a great start. This is what we expect from this roster. I think from them coming in from the west side, kind of slowly moving from bunker to bunker in the military base with no contesting as well, gave them huge amounts of cover to work with from circle to circle, and from there they were able to convert. So happy to see it.
Yeah, I mean, Unicorns of Love's position was very reliant on them being able to stay in the circle as long as possible to make sure the numbers dwindle, and then having teams forced to leave that position on the east, and then when they start leaving, you can just peek them. You saw Crypto get a lot of eliminations that way in particular, so the moment they were still in the circle at the end on that spot, that was really what allowed them to get so many eliminations. 9 eliminations going the way of Unicorns of Love, and a team that we did say after phase 1 they were slowly improving day after day after day, and potentially this is the fruit of their labor right now in this second phase. So hopefully it's not just a one-off like we saw from Game Lord in phase 1. Hopefully they can follow this up with more good results.
I mean, with Unicorns of Love, they were the first team to rotate into military because there was no one there. They saw the zone drop down towards that location as well. And we can't forget about, I'm not even sure who's in-game leading for them because Gonzo originally was an in-game leader. I'm not sure if he's doing that for Unicorns of Love, if you actually know that, Max.
I'm not sure if it's Gonzo or Rolkis. I'll have...
Yeah, I think it might be Rolkis then.
There's a chance, exactly. We know Gonzo can do both, right? He can frag and also IGL, so he's pretty versatile.
But the interesting thing is that we can't forget about, obviously, Gonzo kind of on loan for the team. It's going to take him some time to get that synergy nailed down, to get down how they want to play. And yeah, Unicorns of Love, we've been getting a lot of criticism in this first phase here, James. But they're a team that I think that will grow as the season goes on.
And I think Gonzo actually is probably one of the better players to have on loan from when you think about how West Europe is now. He's come obviously in from previously being so prevalent on Kanina Power, and you actually having a mind of somebody that's constantly been playing against the Navis, the VIRTUS.PROs, these big guns that are coming into the region, that's going to help you in the long run, I feel. So it's a good addition to have for this season at least.
It reminds me a little bit of like the old Cloud9 with Beowulf when Kitsune, or known as Adder, came onto the team, because Adder could also call a bit as well. They kind of had like different roles in terms of like micromanaging calls and macromanaging calls. So interested to see if Unicorns Live continue this pace and continue to build up actually as time goes on. And I actually want to take a look at their stats, I believe, here in this last match. Again, see individually who's the one stepping up, because it's really important to keep an eye on that. As we've been saying for a year and a half, 2 years now, you can't have a team with one pumper. You can't have one star on the team. You got to have a team full of these pumpers, these ones that can pretty much pick up the slack whenever it's needed. And we know Icy can be that player for his team. But look at this, Crypto. You've been talking about him, Bax. The chat goes wild. They love him. 580 damage with the 4 limbs.
Yeah, the Pakistani MVP here, the previous player of IA, really shown up big in this game in particular. We had some good glimpses, you know, in the first phase, him and Icy, but this is really Icy and Crypto, your fragging duo of this tournament, right? This is the fragging duo that you're expecting to see step up for this tournament, and it's a great first game. They kept fragging out. Crypto in particular, his sprays from, I think it was about 200, 300 meters sprays from his distance, like, were really accurate. Of course, it's with the M4. The M4 is still extremely broken, but regardless, Crypto was really putting the pressure down, making sure no team could get even remotely close to their spot. So, yeah, as I said already, I want to see more of this Unicorns in particular. They got time to get there. Hopefully, they can remain in that, like, zone currently.
Yeah, and Colors, I think for Unicorns Love in particular, I mean, with Alicio not on the team anymore, he was the MVP previously with Lacanostra MVP and the likes of those teams.
Yeah.
Those are some big shoes to fill. So Crypto, if he can fill those shoes really well for the team and have Gonzo on the roster, I think Unicorns Love could be an extremely strong team.
Yeah, Unicorns of Love, traditionally, is very good at picking up star players. Whether or not in the past those star players have meshed together has been questionable. But right now, this is a good step in the right direction, especially considering, as I was alluding to earlier, the makeup of Western Europe right now.
Yeah. Okay, well, we talked about before how Unicorns of Love were our dream killers for Colaris and myself, but Maxman was his own dream killer. Now, there isn't really a ton to talk about when it comes to this head-to-head, but I wanted to look at it in particular because we were watching Death Machine fight against TJB, and obviously you guys weren't with us listening to this, but Max was like cheering, like, yeah, get him, you got this, and realized it was actually Death Machine's point of view we were watching, and they were killing off his team.
It was the POV of Harmonia. I was like, wait, actually, no, stop it. These are my guys.
Your panic descended upon his voice. It was brilliant.
To be honest,
that
they
was
had
a 2v4, Max, right?
Sorry?
Was that a 2v4, though, for Death Machine?
Yes, I believe so. But I don't want to talk about this too much. But yeah, they had a really good spot on the high ground position. I was like, based on the information, it could go well. But the fact that they're forced downhill, you have other teams like Death Machine, and also especially Unicorns of Love position. Even if TJB survive making it downhill with the pressure from Unicorns of Love, it seems pretty much mission impossible. So still a decent approach to the circle, and they had a few eliminations that game, which is good for them. But they lost 2v4, and that should not have been lost, really.
I mean, let's be fair. I feel like we can agree that this zone was not very favorable for most teams.
It was rough.
No one was dropping military. Every team had to come in, and we were even talking about if you're one of those teams, Colaris, on the outer edge, in I guess towards the later zones when you know it's shifting hard into military. there's really no avenue for you to safely get across those bridges.
This is why, for me, my Na'Vi pick was a bit of a Hail Mary, because again, this is a rough circle to kind of predict on how it was going to go, depending on where that shift was going to move. And likewise, actually, to back up Max for once, TJB actually had pretty difficult transitions to make from the east side constantly. It felt like the reason they lose that 2v4 is because each fight is kind of a scramble for them. There's really not that much cover. They're trying to play with really small dips and things like that. So eventually them being taken down, even in disadvantageous position for maybe other teams for them against them, could potentially happen for TJB there.
What about Nexus? I think it was like zone maybe like 4 or 5. We saw them have like a decent setup, a decent compound. I'm curious if you guys had any thoughts into them in particular, because obviously they got extremely late into the game, but I'm not sure how you felt like how they played out the situation.
Best compound, but they eventually had to leave it. And when you have to leave it and go downhill from that compound, again, no cover, nothing to work with. Very difficult. You've got Death Machine looking at it from the south. Unicorns of Love is looking at it from the opposite side of the circle completely. And it's always going to be difficult to get out of that compound and survive, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good position in terms of gathering information too, but the moment you leave that position, it's just a cliff. And you know that unfortunately on cliff positions where it goes really steeply downhill, any kind of utility smokes will not save you. So you're just going to still be open to getting shot at by like your Unicorns of Love, your Team Doom, your Pioneers that were actually just up north of their location. I think Pioneer were one of the main spoilers for that game for Nexus, but sure, good compound, but unfortunately seeing where the circle ended up, it was just very hard for them, just like TJB, to really leave that entire eastern edge.
Yeah, but now we're going to be transitioning at least over to Miramar. I actually am not sure what groups are playing or not playing this one, but again, my eyes are looking over towards Game Lord. They haven't played the first match, so they will be in, or they should be in. Them, Eastern Stars, ARB Champions, Ruthless Esports. I think for us, I mean, Ruthless, we've known them under so many different synonyms or pseudonyms. We haven't really seen them rise up to the level of play that we saw them be capable of when they had Salazar join the roster last season. Eastern Stars as well, they've been consistent enough, but they're still not, for me, the Eastern Stars that we like grew to know and love back in the earlier seasons.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, exactly. But I think it was Eastern Stars. We saw in the race to PMGC, they're about, what, 100 and something points behind Game Lord.
Yeah.
Eastern Stars are just an average phase will not allow them to qualify, right? And you don't have that super weekend thing where you could expect, oh, if Game Lord don't qualify, then we can get ahead. No, you're playing every single game, right? So Eastern Stars must be able to perform, especially if Game Lord do not show up. So we need to see Eastern Stars step up a bit here.
Well, you know who always steps up? Our commentators. John on and Blake is going to take you into Miramar.
That's right. We're always here for you, Jason. You know, we got your back on this one. I mean, what do you want us to do with that? Blank, we're going to go into Miramar.
I'm not stood up. I feel bad, but if I stood up,
down.
I would not be in shot. Unfortunately, you just have my torso.
Should we stand up?
No, don't do that. I'm too tall. It wouldn't look good. It'd look bad. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Miramar going right up. Unicorns of Love straight out. You know, their group's done right now, but they got the chicken dinner. Things are chill, man. Happy days at the moment. But you're heading into this one. Eastern Stars, Game Lord jumping in to the fold. Allowed to talk about it's not the Eastern Stars of old. I would agree. I think that a lot of these teams have come a long way since then, though. And I think the Eastern Stars, you know, doing fairly okay. It's not amazing by any stretch of the word, but they're putting up those numbers. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they are fairly close in terms of points for PMGC, in which we have confirmed the #1 spot here for Western Europe will be going to PMGC. They're not too far behind in total point scoring for that, but we'll find out a little bit more of that later in the show, so please stick around if you want to find out about how all those points shake up, because it is really interesting. You'll like it, I promise.
He promises, and that
Please stay.
That is an official blank promise right there.
The official blank promise that those numbers will really
interest you,
make you happy.
Yeah, that's right. Numbers do have that effect on many people, Blank, as I'm sure we are well aware. Plane path towards the south side of Miramar from La Driera over to Impala, starting out on the south side.
Numbers are fun.
It's true. That's what I've heard.
I know you try to do the plane path right now, and I will also assist. I just wanted to make that clear.
What's your favorite number?
My favorite number, 17, for reasons.
It's a pretty good number.
Yeah, for reasons.
It's prime.
No,
No.
I mean, it is.
Well, it is a problem. No, no, yeah.
No, I don't think it
You're
is.
wrong. I've decided the fundamentals of mathematics are incorrect, actually. So, yeah. Anyway, playing path, heading over towards Impala. Eastern Stars, we know they like to drop around Lebedita these days. I do like this adjustment. It's one of my probably favorite adjustments that Eastern Stars have made. A lot of times, you know, they just weren't getting in on that action over towards this side of the map. A lot of times just stuck in Impala for far, far too long. And Miramar, we all know, is a slow map in particular. So if you can be over towards Labandita, Minas Generalis early on in the game, Eastern Stars can get a little bit more fighting in. And a lot of times, you know, if you're not scrimming 24/7, which can burn you out, especially in a longer format as like this one, where it's like, you know, 6 weeks of gameplay in between all 3 phases. If you're not scrimming 24/7, it's nice to get some actual competitive practice in the tournament a lot more. If you're in Impala, typically you're not going to make your way into the circle until like minute, let's say 15, especially if the circle doesn't come over towards you. So I think this is better for Eastern Stars, and they have a team that is competent at team fighting, at squad fighting, and I think they should definitely be utilizing that more. And I don't even have to suggest that to them because that's what they're already doing, John.
Wow, so impressive. You know, you're just in the future. You're just living in the future. You know, you're living numbers of days ahead of us right now.
Playing
Fantastic.
4D Jenga at the moment, though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I know which block is about to fall at what minute, in which future, on what plane. And right now, this playing path has caused some problems towards that northern side. Teams are able to get over towards there as quickly as they would have liked to. So you still have teams making their rotation up towards that north side to loot. However, things are still okay considering we do have that circle heading up towards the northeast side. So this does give teams a whole bunch of time to play around with, because if you had your drop spot down towards the south side, you're going to be able to loot up just fine, but you will have to move in the future. If your drop spot is over towards that north, you're going to take longer to get up there, but you also have longer to loot. So everyone is happy with this circle currently. I don't think there should be anyone really feeling too put out by this circle. So this is absolutely fine. MADBULLS though towards El Pozo weren't able to quite get the best grasp on that last game. Again, though, that circle was slippery, so it wasn't really that easy to get any kind of grip on it anyway. So I think for MADBULLS, they still played that last game as a MADBULLS team would, in which case they were sweeping down the southeast side. They were able to take down Take-Aim Gaming, and then they were looking to push in to that final circle. They had 3 vehicles up as well, John, even though they lost a player early. They were able to send it in, but there was just so many players looking at them as they flew in, especially Na'Vi, who were really cheeky with their 2 players, able to get some really good shots off over towards them. And I think they're even gunning for their position in the first place. So unfortunate for MADBULLS. However, still, we got to be pleased with Na'Vi getting much more consistently into these late game circles rather than burning very bright in the beginning and then fizzling out early.
It's difficult to judge last game purely on its results, right? You do actually have to sort of look more than, I would say, usual at almost the quality of the decisions being made, right? And it seems like MADBULLS, it was fairly nicely principled. It was just such a difficult situation for so many teams in those situations that it kind of means that it doesn't super reflect the results exactly as the decision making in the game.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Judge a team by what they do, not by where they place. Yes, yes. This shall be the new PMPL mantra that we shall adopt from now on. But yeah, no, it is what generally the analyst tests do anyway, and that was developed by you in particular, John. I know that you were, giving feedback to them after the games, how to do their jobs. That's fine. Sometimes someone needs to take the lead, and you're the perfect person for it, John.
That's right.
You know what's good.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had to retire from the prediction game, right? Because it wouldn't have been fair.
That's right. We were too good at it. I mean, just look at last game. I predicted Unicorns Love in the first 2 minutes. It's too easy for me.
You absolutely did. You said, this is the winning position. And it was.
And it was. Totally not luck or anything in that sense of the word, but...
Why would you even bring that up? It's not...
No, that's not real. It's not real.
Don't do that.
To be fair, I think it was still a case because the guys on the desk all had very good points. And I think when you get a circle like that, especially when all 3 analysts go 3 different teams, the circle is rough. Yeah. I think what I was banking on was Unicorns Love actually being able to transition from a very good position into the next, which they did, and it's nice to see that that break has, you know, paid dividends. They're not in this match right now, but I will talk about them anyway because it's something that was pleasing. And, you know, Unicorns Love, probably one of the most favorite teams in EU. They're just full of love and full of positivity.
All right, what are you going to say about them?
I think that's it. That's all I need to say. Yeah. I mean, I did complain about that party bus play one time, but they took that one well.
Should we go over everything you've ever said about the Unicorns of Love? See your track record on supporting them?
If someone's got the script, yeah, sure, we can do.
That's right. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Let's go back to page 2.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Page 17. Ooh, it's not looking good.
Not looking good. You said some bad things about them, yeah.
You said that you didn't like Icy's haircut. Oh, that's a bean.
I've never said that.
You did say that.
I think Icy's...
You say that to me. In fact, you say that to me every day.
Icy's looking fresh as an ice cube.
Stop telling me that.
Okay, chill.
Fresh as an ice cube.
Yeah. That's fresh water.
Interesting
right
turn of phrase. Are ice cubes fresh, do you think?
Yeah, well, I went down to the river and I filled my little ice cube mold up from the fresh river water, and then it was fresh ice cube I made in the freezer.
That's such a trial for something you could buy at a supermarket.
Yes, but imagine you serve your eliminations and drinks cold with a fresh ice cube. It goes well for you.
Get a chilled monster with some ice cubes, maybe?
Fresh ice cubes.
Fresh ice cubes.
I don't know what Logan's doing out here at the moment. He is kind of struggling on his own. I mean, a nade would be perfect at this point in time. He was able to take down the vehicle, so decent stuff, but those DMRs aren't going to prove much help to him from the backside from his team if they aren't able to hit any shots. And I would say, at the moment, Arab champions are playing a pretty good game for themselves. They can just like literally all peak one at a time over this ridge side, and XTEAM do certainly have to disengage. Very central position though for both these teams, and I think for XTEAM you'd much rather hold on to the durability of your vests, your helmets, etc. But they do have a lot of loot in here as well, so they can quickly refresh things.
They can vibe. They can vibe for a while.
Yeah. I'm surprised no one challenged them in Hacienda.
You say, I mean, it's normally TJB's drop, right? That's normally the area that TJB tend to drop. So maybe it's a lot of teams not really wanting to go for that challenge or not using it as a reliable spot. Potentially you will see that conflict come through when XTEAM and TJB spot each other on Miramar, but we'll have to wait for that.
Yeah. I think we've seen Game Lord head down here a few times as well, but that wind and water treatment, this is their new home. They love this place. This is so good.
They should.
Yeah, it was a pretty... I said it last time, and I'll say it again. It was a very unfulfilling win, right? It didn't... It was more of a case they were in the right place at the right time, and the circle just kept coming towards them. And in the end, you know, I think it was mainly Icy who was the main surpriser, who was able to, you know, somehow dodge the Molotov on the floor by getting 2 steps off the air, like he was walking on clouds, and then take down a couple of players.
It's like when you gorge on bread before the start of a meal, right? And you're just like, yeah, well, I'm full, but at what cost?
At what cost? I don't get to enjoy this chicken dinner.
It's the Game Lord breadstick win from Water.
The breadstick win, yes. That's what we call all of them from now on. It's the breadstick win. You had too many of it. It's like when they serve fries at the beginning. You know what they're trying to do. But you haven't none of it.
No, I'm having all of it.
No, don't do it.
I'm going to do
Not
it.
at all.
I'm going to have those fries. You can't stop me.
Probably not.
I'm a fry fiend.
I could try, but I probably would not be able to. QODEX currently just not having a great time at all. Not even able to get a breadstick win for themselves. It's all gone downhill since then. Not able to get anything done.
MUERTE on the southwest side. This is in San Martin. Well, sort of, or near San Martin anyway. Right on the outskirts on the south side. QODEX potentially looking to skirt around it. Further out, there's scout money, Ken. decisions to be made. Do you go east? Do you go in towards where Pioneer currently sit? Or do you swing around to the north and try and come in on those west hills?
It is a bit of a tough decision that they've got to make. I think, you know, heading over towards the west side of San Martin, not a bad idea for yourself. You could head towards that side, move up towards the high ground. Again, you're crossing roads though, John, and that's where things become a little bit awkward.
Bazzi has oversight onto VIRTUS.PRO's compound. VIRTUS.PRO, not the best of luck in last game's proceedings. Been taken down by the eventual Chicken Dinner winners, Unicorns of Love. They've already lost a player here. And Eastern Stars seem to have to surround. Na'Vi, pretty heavily spread right now, close to big. Could prove to be difficult. This is right on the northern side. A pretty isolated fight in this current scenario.
Not too many teams around this area. And Big's made a big movement up towards the north side, usually down towards the southwest, towards Chumasera. Tixi, though, immediately able to find that elimination. Na'Vi's so fast when it comes to taking down players. Like, the knock comes through immediately. And they're nothing short than probably one of the best teams in this lobby when it comes to mechanical skill. They're just so fantastically quick on the trigger.
Absolutely. I think that this is the reward you get for the risk that Na'Vi sort of took in that situation. They played fairly split, right? The difficulty is if one of you gets knocked, it's going to be it's going to be much harder to get back, get regrouped and put back together. But you have a lot more angles to potentially strike out at the enemy, and Big were caught unaware by one of them. So that was the reward that they got. Na'Vi not taking any loss for that presence as well. Pick up a point essentially for free.
Exactly. It's very easy for them. Usually dropping over towards La Cabrerias, Na'Vi, so this is fairly a simple rotational path for them. Heading over towards Cruz de Valle now. You have Shockwave over there and 4 remaining men down towards that southeast side. Again, John, El Azahar, a lot of high ground to play around with, so they will have to be a little bit careful when it comes to moving into this area, but if they can get in early enough, which they should be able to coming in from that northern side, they might be able to find themselves a decent position on the top.
Traffic in the way of everyone on the southwestern side. VIRTUS.PRO will be the crossing guards here for Team Doom. Get your high vis on. Team Doom already taking a lot of damage, but no knocks just yet. Frosty tickled. Back up to the side of the wall to regroup with the team. VIRTUS.PRO with only 3 don't really have the angles they're looking for, but Ruthless have the third party. Frosty knocked. And on the outside, VIRTUS.PRO have the cover. They have the right side of the building. Zero, nade in through, comes in. Nice and effective from Yankee. Dropping one down to respond. Maybe in danger here. If that one goes off right in the face, no. Gets back to cover. VIRTUS.PRO nail the shots from Old Boy.
That would nade down the stairs. Yankee, who's back. Here's a bobble. Push away. Now it's 3v2. I do want to talk about this fight once it concludes, because there's some very good plays here during this one. Specifically, I think it was Mia who baited the nade from Yankee up on the top side, which led Team Doom to stick around in that building for longer. He jumps out the window, nade comes through the top, and it knocks Frosty. Really well done. DeMuerte here versus ARB.
ARB seemingly on the back foot in this fight. DeMuerte looks like only have Hamo to deal with now, as Hamodi is down. Maybe looking for a res. It's zone 3, can be resed. But instead, wants to go for some of these shots. Has a little bit of time to play with on Hamodi's health bar. They can keep themselves up at 2. Might be preferable.
I think for DeMuerte, you need to get ahead right now. Moving through the fields at the moment, this is towards that western side. Getting through Game Lord, though, might be tricky. They do have massive oversight towards this fielded area. No smokes, no nothing. Big, though, have taken down 3 of MADBULLS. This is after having a horrible run-in with Na'Vi. And now Mazzaro.
With only Xeric to deal with. Nade over the top, could be on the money. Swave doesn't go down here. Really, really crucial. Res now starting to come through. MADBULLS want to piece themselves back together. Losing 1 already. Not great, but Big only have these 2. Swave pushes out. Zarek makes the break for it. The spray around the side gets the re-knock. Swave crucially finding that position. And now Mazzaro's into the fight. A trade-off from Swave keeps them still at 2 for Big.
Really well done. I mean, for Big there to bring things back out. I mean, Zerish is a very, very strong player indeed. Almost able to get skills back up again. If he was able to get it behind the little dumpster there and actually able to get around to the side, it would have been fine. But luckily, Mazzaro just clips him as he heads round before he get the first aid off. It might have been a very different story if MADBULLS was able to get that second player back up again. Overall, though, impressive being able to get 2 players back up and fighting in a really difficult scenario. I think it must have been a 3v4 on that northern side, completely isolated as well. So started off as a very strong fight. 2 predictions coming through from Shockwave and Na'Vi for Maxman. So he trusts in them this game.
All right, okay. We'll have to wait and see what Na'Vi can do. They are on the west side. Maxman actually forsaking his Game Lord prediction, you know? This might be a tactical decision to avoid cursing. It is pretty sus, but Game Lord, maybe he was right about it. 2 players going down almost immediately, as we say.
Yeah, that's, Did we curse them? Was that us?
I don't think so.
Well, at least 2 get away from that terrible scenario over towards the blue there. And I think they're held out there for too long. Somehow, MUERTE were able to make it across the fields with absolutely no resistance. XTEAM, just the 1 player remaining. But for Game Lord, I do think they should have had a tighter hold on that position, especially as teams are just sending in. Good shots from Eastern Stars there. This is much more what you're looking for, and that was very well placed. Athis is just a king when it comes to long-range shots.
He knows exactly where Zombie's going to push, right? He sees that bus stop. He knows he's going to hop out, puts some bullets through that window, tags it up, sliver of HP to find. Of course, Athis didn't know that, but it was enough to do the job. Ruthless Esports rolling up on easy. And that is going to be one hell of a flush. But unfortunately, they do get knocked in the meantime. It looks like Eastern Stars have the bead on that position. NEXUS still holding out on the west side.
For them, their biggest opportunity is to get a few elimination points coming from here. But Na'Vi in front of them is going to be a really difficult opponent to pass in this circle. With the compound they're holding, the shots that they can take over towards them, which is basically out in the open for just a little bit longer, should be able to do some decent damage. I think for NEXUS, it's almost a certainty that they might need to wrap up towards either the north side, which is over the road, which would be really difficult, or go for the sad rotate down towards the south and get further away from the center of the circle.
NEXUS trying to scout this compound, trying to spot players from Na'Vi who are very aware, acutely so, of the presence to their west. They will have to break, but have a little bit of time to play with. 4 Romanian men. VIRTUS.PRO, central. Shockwave will have to move down south as well. It's Ruthless Esports dispatched.
Now, NEXUS not budging, though, on the western side. It's a little bit rough for Na'Vi because they've got to now focus on getting over towards the center of the circle, which heads over towards the east. Shockwave still with 4, playing on the northern edge. Again, this is such a Shockwave game, and I'm not surprised that the boys do go for this prediction. It's something they play very well. They're so quiet on Miramars. They love their macro here, and they've got a good spread to just find all the information they need. Kitsune sends out, and they do take shots over towards them, so Octavian's able to put a stop to that. You saw the suppressing fire coming through from Na'Vi, but they really needed Kitsune to get to the back there. So rough for them now.
It's just those angles, right? It just doesn't quite add up. You can't suppress the ridgeline when your teammate is higher up the hill to the back of you, because there's angles that you can peek where you just can't be shot at. NEXUS, though, they're going to struggle almost equally here as Doran taken very, very low. The rest of the team as well swept up. That's a lot of eliminations pouring on in. And now NEXUS are down. Eastern Stars did shut that one down as well. And now Na'Vi can look to move, but Eastern Stars might be their new problem.
Yeah, it's a real shame for Na'Vi there because NEXUS was essentially just completely blocking themselves out of that game. I mean, they could have gone for a rotation down towards the south, but instead try and take this fight with Na'Vi, which I think is complete folly. Like, you just locked in combat between them. And instead, they try and head north, in fact, as well. So either way, I think that the movement there was just a little bit too shoddy from NEXUS, a little bit too late, and just a bit overconfident. I think sometimes you have to take the hit and go for placements. Na'Vi, though, they do make out towards that northwest side. Can't quite just send straight towards the hillsides because they're not certain whether this team's playing up here anymore. Big is behind them, but on the low ground.
Ooh, trade-off for Na'Vi. Mazzaro low, already away. Tixi down, but should be resible on the west side for Na'Vi if they can regroup and find a little bit of respite as the Mazzaro draws attention from Shockwave. Will go down. And now Shockwave looking to move. 2-2 right now on the split, taking control of a lot of the north side.
Yeah, this is pure Shockwave gameplay. It's all about the macro. I don't think Na'Vi is going to comfortably get into this circle. This goes back to basically one of the final Miramars we saw in Phase 1, where it's Shockwave who moved down from the north and took down VP, who looked like they were having the game of their life there on Miramar. Unfortunately, Shockwave just had better utility and were just more durable in the end just because they hadn't taken many fights in the first place. This time, I think it might be time for VP to possibly get a little bit of revenge here versus Shockwave, as the circle does move down towards their way, but still Shockwave has a lot of ample opportunity to make some rotations now.
Smokes bloom out, Eastern Stars and Pioneer close to one another. Ankle spotted, and Kemi sweeps the leg. There's no way you get that one back up either. Eastern Stars moving forwards over open ground, parallel to Pioneer's position, with oversight from Shockwave. This is a really tricky rotation.
It's just cruel here from Shockwave. Again, they're not looking for a high elimination game. They're just looking to cause problems on purpose, which is the Shockwave way here on Miramar. Because the map's so much bigger as well, I think Shockwave has a lot more room to play around with. Kapahala has to hit the deck.
Ooh, Athis not so quick on the trigger there. Kapahala low, is in danger there to the nade. Coming in from the back, Fash gets that heal off as well, and now they can pick up these flushes. Keme, Bazzi, backline for Eastern Stars. Needing to keep that suppressing fire up. Bazzi forced to go for this heal now on the floor. They're not quite in this zone, and there's the spray down. Fash finds the shots onto Bazzi. Keme through the smoke. They do know where this location is, where this buggy is going to be. That will have been pinged out, and they can spray over towards it. Keme wants teammates back in, and why not? Move through this smoke train as 3. It's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of smoke's been dropped here to try and defend from Shockwave up on high. That's a great nade coming from Izumitsu. And again, Keme last remaining here. Bazzi just about to bleed out jump.
Do they know that he's exactly behind here? Keme, a sliver of HP, but nothing doing. Pioneer sweep out Eastern Stars. In the meantime, Na'Vi did go down with the final 2 players, and Shockwave continue to dominate on the northern side. VIRTUS.PRO caught in the middle.
I mean, for Pioneer, they leave no shrapnel on the battlefield from those nades because majority of the time, the way they were tossing them, it was just a case Eastern Stars was having to eat and swallow whole all those nades in the first place. VP, though, down to very limited members. Old Boy and Mir left alive with a sliver. Mir's able to get off at least 1 first aid here, now has to move forward. Shockwave starting to make their approach. Ooh. Pioneer from behind. Oh, it's all going wrong.
For Romanian men, can they push in under the sightlines of Shockwave? It looks like they're going to go for it. Old Boy fragging out now, needs to stand tall. Has done it before. Will he do it again? The VIRTUS.PRO passes the window, goes for the cross, sprays. Is going to land a little bit, but Old Boy holds out for now. Do they know he's crossed? Looking for the first aid. Not quite in the zone, but has the other end of the building. Goes in. And Old Boy drops back, leaves that hiding place exposed, and now really can't use it again. Pushes outside of the wall, but Pioneer are there. They took down his teammate before. Will they be able to strike against Old Boy now as well? Up the top, Rana spotted out. 4 Romanian men do not find the frag. Old Boy, 1 versus 2, needs to hold on if VIRTUS.PRO are going to go any further. A lot more damage found. He's dancing. He's on his toes, and he's going to be able to find it. Oh, he's shooting for the stars and lands amongst them. Excellent play from Old Boy.
This guy is a TDM god. He expects everything. The lad on top of the box, you know, I've seen that multiple times in my TDM games, but Old Boy even predicts it in Miramar. Pioneer now, though, move up, and Shockwave weren't able to quite send them back, but with 4 players. You see him right in front of you, mate. He's in front of you.
Oh, that one was heard. Aza gets the spray down. Pioneer lose a player. Shockwave with 4, VP with 1, Pioneer on 2.
Goodness me. The predicts coming through from Jason and Kalaris, though. Shockwave
Looking
up
good.
to their old antics. Very predictable stuff, in fact.
6 eliminations from Shockwave with 4 players alive. They know the direction of Pioneer. They will have heard the shots from Old Boy in his 1 versus 2. And they should know the lay of the land. They'll see 3 other players remaining. Question is, where do they think the 2 is?
I don't know. It looks like the 2 players from Shockwave on the other side from Nightmare and Hakoni are looking to lock down Old Boy from VP. I think they realize this is 2 separate teams. Just smart play from Shockwave. I think they know that both these teams are heavily damaged. Smokes get sent out. Old Boy was able to refresh a lot of this armor and a few first aid kits. I love that Pioneer was trying to use the jump punch to hide the footsteps, but forgot to use his eyes. Yeah, you could be silent as much as you want, but remember to put your glasses on.
As soon as you pull out the gun, you get heard, right, as well. So
Yeah.
it's damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Circle heads up towards the north, John. I think this is all but over for these 2 players. And at the moment, it's between Pioneers and VP trying to get this 2nd place. I say that, but oh boy. Oh boy. Could be going for something a little bit more.
If Shockwave take 2v1s, I mean, we've seen Old Boy win it out. And if they're taking a 2v2 against Pioneer, that's still a winnable fight, right? So it's not over right yet for Shockwave. If they can get rid of one of these teams, that's when I'll start to truly feel its doneness of the game.
Yeah. And they're just taking his time about it. I mean, he will have to leave this building. And currently, Hakoni and Nightmare have the bead on. She's in the 3rd-person perspective over the wall as well for Hakoni, not allowing anyone out. I think there was so many nades, so much utility used. Pioneer.
Yeah, there it is.
Very well done.
Now they can turn their full focus to Pioneer. Move on down. Look at this, Hakoni, Nightmare. SMGs in hand, and it is absolutely a shooting gallery. Down the hill, Pioneer taken out. Shockwave, with all 4 alive, will be taking the chicken dinner.
I mean, you have to respect Shockwave for it. I mean, they've done it before, they do it again. There are no messing in these matches, and they set themselves up for success. Again, it's what we said in the beginning, it's just causing those problems around the map, and that's absolutely fine with them. They don't have to get a huge elimination count game, but pushing in from that northern side, that's their MO, dude. That's what they love to go for, and they set themselves up beautifully on that high ground. Again, it's just a little bit of overusage of utility from some of these teams, Pioneer in particular. So many nades sent over towards Eastern Stars, so many smokes. They had absolutely nothing left, Captain, by the end. They had nothing more to throw in, so Shockwave were just comfortable to sit on that top side. No nades to send over that way. And I think with with how damaged Eastern Stars were, John, I don't think they needed that many nades to finish them off when they really could have used them at the end of the game to try and clear out some of those players from Shockwave up the hill.
Yeah, it was right towards the end. It was a Shockwave game to lose for sure. They were able to execute on that fairly effectively. But what a play from Old Boy as well, from VP in the compound, right? Taking that 1v2, he was absolutely on his toes. We're going to keep you guys on your toes. So we jump on over to the desk.
Okay, sorry, I was just jumping into my chair there. What a fantastic match, obviously. Thank you, Kalaris. Max didn't join us because he didn't predict the right team to win, clearly. Only people who predict the right teams to win get to jump in their chair, though I'm actually getting a little bit worried about my break. So yeah, Kalaris and I getting the prediction correctly, but to be fair, Max, you were saying that, yeah, Shockwave's too easy of a pick. I'm going to go for something a little bit spicier.
I like to go egg. We can't always pick the same thing, right? And I knew that if I picked the team, you would have changed. I was like, I'm going to leave you guys take the point. So I don't want to have like a repeat of the question of the day, right? We're going to start off a little bit slow. But yeah, I mean, Shockwave really not really too surprised. They had like the best position in the circle, that massive split. So of course the information game coming their way is massive, and also from those high ground positions, you're making sure teams cannot contest your location. And where the circle went afterwards, it was pretty much easy peasy with a high ground advantage. So yeah, Shockwave, execution clean, remaining as a 4-man team and getting 24 points on the board here.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, the barriers they were creating for entry points were very important as well. Nightmare and Azza on that west side, making sure no teams could try and push up to the high ground that they were holding on to was extremely important. Arguably the most important hold position for them to make sure that nobody was kind of breaching onto the high ground. Because if that happens, this is not an easy win for them by any stretch of the imagination. So just a good information game, good control game by Shockwave that had the best compound for quite a bit of those circles, which is kind of why we went with them.
Yeah, as you're saying, right, they denied Big and Na'Vi from like rotating around to get behind Shockwave or maybe to take the high ground away. For VIRTUS.PRO, though, I felt kind of bad for them just because the compound they had, the high ground around them was really difficult to deal with. It felt like crabgrass over on Livik, where it's not really a favorable position for you when people are on the high ground, but they did have compound, and honestly, Old Boy put on a show.
Yeah, the main issue for VIRTUS.PRO is that they were just getting pinched. There was, of course, 4 many men come in their location, and then you had the side of Shockwave right up north of where they were standing. So you have that little bit of a pinch situations happening on top of them, and also you're getting naded by Shockwave above that. But yeah, Old Boy just really stood up big time in that 1v2. He's surprised he saw one play on the crate above that, towards that rooftop location, and gets the knock on him, and then it's just peeking left, right, center over that little wall, and he just gets it done. And yeah, Old Boy, I mean, clearly stepped up once again. He was doing really good on the last phase, and here once again. And they just came in one by one, and he just picked them up, reduced the numbers, and then turned into a 1v2.
Honestly, I feel like we've talked about this quite a few times, and it's kind of like a staple strategy when it comes to PUBG Mobile, is that when you have a team in a very hard-to-move position, which I don't think the VIRTUS.PRO necessarily were, but we saw 2 teams, like you said, Max, pinching against VIRTUS.PRO. So you had in the front side 4 many men, the back side you had Shockwave. But we see this happen so many times, especially on Miramar, where teams don't take advantage of a team that's in a good compound, already fight another team and crashing together to just overpower them.
Yeah, and I think for Old Boy in particular there, what I think he did that was really smart to be able to take that 1v2 is instead of just remaining inside the compound, he knew, okay, a lot of the teams got eliminated on the southwestern side. I'm going to go to the southern wall of that building to make sure I can just focus on that one team and not be scared of other teams having off angles, etc. So it was actually a pretty smart play from him, and good stuff from him in particular. But when we're looking at Shockwave, I'm happy we've seen Azza finally step up. Like I always kept saying it, he's been always a player that I think has been a little bit overlooked when he was part of Chazmac, part of Team Clash, and he really gets a lot of respect for this game in particular. He did so well for Shockwave.
Well, let's see how much better he did than the rest of his team maybe then as you take a look at the player's stats, and you can see 727 damage and 5 eliminations. Not bad. The thing was, I think Shockwave had 0 limbs for the longest time until that zone started to close in a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you don't really need to do much when you're in that compound. It's when you start needing to control that high ground that's very, very important. And as teams are entering that kind of theater of conflict near you, the lines of sight from where they are become very evident, very abundant as well. So lovely to see them being able to get as much as they did off the back of this. And again, a good control game. I think that's what it all comes down to. They could have quite easily controlled this game and kind of herded teams into one another and not really got many eliminations off the back of it and still won this game as a whole. But yeah, picking up a few here and there, very nice.
I mean, it's still important, though, as we saw MADBULLS having a massive lead by almost 60 points at the end of the first phase. Every point you can get is really important, especially if MADBULLS have another tear like they had in the first phase. But speaking of tears, we were talking about Old Boy. I actually want to see that clip again of that 1v2 because of how well he played it out. Let's actually get that rolling for you guys at home, and then we'll dive into the player stats here for VIRTUS.PRO. I mean, Old Boy, I think proved right here why he's so deserving of being currently number 3 in the MVP rankings.
I think when you look at this as well, one thing that is very, very clear is like just in terms of crouch control, as you're seeing him crouching, bobbing up and down while still being able to pivot, still able to shoot the way he is. Very good mechanical skill on show there from Old Boy, where some of that wall isn't as low as some of that part. So having your crouch really on point there whilst he's able to also then control his sprays, really commendable.
Maybe I'm completely off the mark on this remark, but I have the impression that was a like he's moving like a player that's playing with a 5-finger claw, just the way he was crouching all the time and his movement just strafing all the time. It looked like he was playing with 5 fingers, which I don't know many that play that way. Potentially, I'll have to ask the question to make sure 100% if that's the case, but it was a lot of things happening at the same time, like strafing, jumping up and down, scoping in, taking the shots, and also, of course, taking that prone up and down tendency. So, yeah, I mean, it's not easy to do, especially in a position like that, but if one player can make it happen for the team, it is Old Boy, and he proved it right here.
I mean, I think it's sometimes for people who don't really play PUBG Mobile a ton or don't watch a ton, you kind of get lost in the raw mechanical skill that's needed to play at this level. And I think Old Boy right there just kind of sported that for all of us to see at home, that this is ridiculously hard to pull off here. But I think it's a testament to his experience in the game as well. Not only how good of a player he is, but he's been around pretty much since the beginning. And he put the log down saying, guys, I might be old, but I'm still your boy.
That's the main, I guess, thing that exists in PUBG Mobile, where these guys that you're watching make it look easy, but it is anything but, especially if they're using claw grip, especially if they're having to react and make the right decisions in those moments as well. It's anything but easy. We rank plenty. Us as a group, we've played plenty of games together and we enjoy ranking up and stuff like that together, but when you get to this level, which is literally the world stage at this point, like it's completely different level.
And you got to keep in mind, there's also like the gyro aspect to you, like they're just playing all over the place. You got to try. But so it's super complicated, though. Right? And we saw it a little bit during PMWI, right, where they had the camera behind the players and the fact like how they were moving 5-6 finger claw sometimes. The skill to play this game at this level is insane, and I think the spectator climb makes it a little bit hard to realize how complicated it is what the teams are doing. So yeah, props to Old Boy once again for that great clutch.
It's frustrating, I think, as a viewer, because you look at that and you're like, I could do that. And I go into a ranked game and like, oh, guys, watch this. I'm going to do like a 360. I'm going to take out these 3 guys. And then as I'm approaching the compound, I'm already knocked. I'm already dead. It happens. Not all of us are born with that naturally talented gift some of these players have, but we still have more matches coming today. Remember, we have 5 matches a day. Each group or each team will be playing out 4 matches per day, and it's going to be going over to Sanhok now. Now, this for me is going to be interesting, and if we have the time to see the groups who are playing and not playing, I think that's something to keep an eye on, because I do wonder if TJB are in this match, because they have been probably the most proactive team in changing drop locations on Sanhok and have yet to do heal-offs that we've seen them do in the prior season. And they will, in fact, actually be here yet again.
Yeah, they're off their break right now, so they'll be able to get back onto Sanhok. Of course, we saw in the phase 1, they have one set drop location. They've been changing consistently from start to finish, so we'll see if that's going to be good for them. MUERTE is playing this game, so going back to the Same drop is not going to be an option. MUERTE should be there, ready to take the fight for the healing drop location. So yeah, we'll see what other changes TJB are going to bring to the table.
Okay, well, we have about 5 seconds left till we're heading into the match. Let's look back to our commentators here to kick off match 3 of the day.
The TJB wheels will start to spin. Where will it stop? Well, we'll find out in just a minute, as we are going to be getting into Sanhok. Things could be a little bit crazy.
I think the proactive approach of this game maybe not the right word for TJB. I think it's been very reactive for them a lot of the times, where teams have been dropping on them, teams have been dropping up towards their new drop spots. I think that they're just desperate to find a place that they can play in, because this spot over towards the western side of Quarry, it doesn't feel very much like TJB are enjoying this position playing in, and a lot of times they just get completely ripped to smithereens once any team comes by them. So I think for TJB, something needs to change a little bit. Maybe challenge for Sami, but with the amount of times that's gone wrong versus MUERTE, it's just not a likely change they're going to make in phase 2. However, I could be wrong. I could be very, very wrong. That could be the biggest call I've made all day.
Could be. But speaking of big calls that you've made today, the Unicorns of Love are back in this game. So we will see if they can carry on their form from first game, find the winning spot early, mayhaps. What are we thinking? We'll see if they are going to be able to take it. Have TJB got out yet? Are they out of the plane? Have they decided?
They are, yes.
There they are. Wide split.
Yeah, very, very wide split there. They've done this a few times. It's a little bit interesting to watch unfold, actually. Hasn't gone great before with a team finding at least one of their players they get taken down, and then it's all curtains from there. I think for TJB, dear me, I don't know. I don't like this split, honestly. If it's so in the area where so many teams want to rotate through and or find like positions to scout, positions to loot, trash-wise. It's like you have so many chances to drop on another team in this area.
I mean, we'll see how fast they regroup, I think, is going to be whether or not this drop could be effective. I was also looking at Na'Vi's slight adjustment. They're now dropping one on the mainland island, one on the southwest island on the compounds that split over the west and the east of that confluence, instead of all dropping on that northwestern island.
Yeah, I think that's not too bad for them. It's not too bad for them. Setting Matic down with Tixi towards the East Coast is not a bad idea, considering, you know, you get a lot of advantages here in terms of how quickly you can rotate. And I think seeing how fast particularly teams like Take-Aim Gaming have been trying to pick up that compound that they usually head towards on the confluence. And so getting control of it nice and early is not a bad idea. TJB have regrouped. I don't think it really matters, though, how quick they regroup with this split. There is still ample opportunity in the first 2 minutes for a teammate to get knocked and then flushed instantly. You saw Hamodi try to go for it with Lin. I think with a little bit more precision, that could have been a flush, and TJB down to 3, which, as we all know, at 3 minutes into the game on Sanhok, losing your 4th member is horrific. You want to have as many players up as possible towards that 10-minute mark so you can fight out that third party that is inevitably going to come your way at some point and win. Na'Vi just taking shots towards Arab champions. This is over towards boot camps, and they are winning with just 2 players.
They've got oversight, or certainly from the hills on the south side of boot camp. Eastern Stars have some vision onto Big. Mihi, oh, if he went on the other side of that wall, that was going to be it for him. Doesn't venture out into the open just yet. Sees Athis. Is this Eastern Stars trying to bait some shots, trying to bait a position from Big so that they can try and shut it down right up close? I don't think that Big have any idea that there's a player this close.
Problem. I do like when Athis does this, because not only does he cause issues in terms of being a distraction when he takes these long rotates out to the side to do the big flank that we all know Athis for, but it also, like you said, incentivizes some of these players to maybe go for some peaks. And all the while, you've got 3 players from Eastern Stars who are watching from several different angles to find that singular player that maybe gets just a little bit out of location. And even if they don't find that distraction knock, Athis still gets into a good flanking position. So I think they've really developed this play from Eastern Stars. And now Big is somewhat locked in. Sway's had to move back to try and scout out for Athis, but he's moved forward now.
This is pushed up right to the walls of the compound, could spot 2 players, not quite able to get the first knock. Mazzaro, though, still lying in wait. Another attempt at the spray, and Mazzaro moves up. Should be able to hear this. Athis not quite on the swivel fast enough. Is Kapahala there? Can he get this refrag? It doesn't look hopeful right now. Mazzaro not going for that flush, not getting greedy for Big.
I mean, Eastern Stars just got played at their own game. There was a distraction play with the rotate, and Mazzaro remains behind and finds the knock on Athis. And that's the big flanker down. So now Big knows that the majority of the players they'll have to deal with going forward will be directly in front of them. So that was a very, very smart little play from Big to turn that one around. They knew staying in that compound was not a good idea, because Eastern Stars had basically every single opportunity to find the angles that they wanted to. So Big kind of had to switch up the paradigm on that fight. So I really like the way they play that out, and it changes things up in such a way that Eastern Stars are now kind of sent off kilter just a little bit.
Not ideal, right? There's still a chance to get it back up. Can they do it? Now is the time to prove this crossing, but unfortunately, they do get spotted out in the open in the meantime. TJB, VIRTUS.PRO, going at it. And at the moment, TJB are up, with one of their players knocked, but giving a flush back out in response. Tingska playing around the wall, trying to channel his inner old boy. Doing so fairly effectively to start, and there's another knock on the off angle. VIRTUS.PRO caving, potentially, to TJB in this scenario. But it is old boy left standing. And you give him a wall, he'll take a mile. GK first on the flank. Lin needs to challenge, needs to get this first knock, but he's over. And it's Old Boy working his magic again. GK first now needs to find the challenge. 32 bullets in the magazine, but 13 for the UMP is going to be plenty to put him down. And it's Old Boy again to find the clutch. TJB cannot dismount him. This guy is brutal today.
You said it correctly, John. You give this guy a wall, and it's basically a fortress in the eyes of Old Boy. It's all he needs. You cannot push through that concrete that Old Boy pushes up in your face, let alone the bullets he's slinging your way too. I don't know, man. This man is cracked out of his mind. And at this point, I think that anyone comes up against Old Boy, you've got to be quaking in your boots. It's the speed at which he finishes. That initial fight between the two players, he knows that he sees two guys in front of him. There's got to be one behind, so instantly jumps over the wall to finish off the flush on the knock, and then turns. The fact that he's able to think about all these things in the moment is what makes this guy so incredible. It's the reads. It's not only that little micro player, the mechanical. It's the fact that he knows what's going to come next in a fight. This guy's playing 4D Jenga, let alone me. Let's come on.
Oh, he's got at least 5Ds on those Jengas.
5Ds on those Jengas, dude. Yeah. I don't know,
Jenga.
man.
5D claw grip Jenga.
This guy is galactic brain.
Look at the replay here. First nails that shot, pushes out, jumps over the wall, knows there's a player behind him. Knows there's a player behind him. That jump needed to work so that he had cover from GK first push. That, I mean, you're right. He absolutely played a symphony there.
Well, it's 7 minutes in. We can't talk about him for another 15. Well, we could, but we'll choose not to in favor of some of these other players that maybe want some screen time because, goodness me, that was unbelievable stuff. Of the two players, I mean, I'd be a little bit frustrated if I am Old Boy because I do feel like I'm putting in a lot of the work right now. However, I even watching that fight, I do think that VP gave it their all. They're a super aggressive team. It's like they're very decisive, and it felt like TJB were able to just find a couple of shots. Again, it goes back to what I was saying on day 6, which is that TJB is a massive team, a big team that suffers massively from tunnel vision, right? So when you have a death ball type team that just runs straight at them, they are a good team at the end of the day, but when they're able to just focus on one thing at a time where VP is just rushing them, they tend to do quite well there. It's when you add something else into a mix like a flanker or a third party where they just completely crumble. That being said, VP probably not the best opponents to go against as TJB for them. There's a slight counter there. Again, the Old Boy able to clutch out at the end, and I think you saw the way TJB looked at the end, John. They were absolutely flailing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's not ideal, right? But you've got to have those things in order when you're coming up against Old Boy. VP seemingly up to their old tricks over these last couple of games. Doing very, very well. I mean, not super high scoring games, but the plays they've been making, the consistency that they've been showing, getting maybe not massive scores on the board, but still keeping themselves in the conversation. Excellent stuff. Certainly better, I would say, than the MADBULLS are currently performing. That's the sort of the rivalry that we were setting up at the start of the day.
Yeah. Again, I do think that MADBULLS have still made some good decisions, and they've been decisions that have been sent them on the path towards getting a chicken dinner each time. I think at VIRTUS.PRO, though, we've just seen much more of their team fighting, which is really fun to watch. They still have like a lot of these interesting little tactics and strategies that they employ. I didn't get to talk about it too much on Miramar, but it was one thing that really excited me, was the fact that Yankee was holding in the building with 2 players from Team Doom. And Team Doom is hesitant to leave because they know there's a player inside their building. So as soon as Yankee jumps out, they run towards that position to try and take the knock, which is something that most players would do. But by that time, Mia's already sent a nade in through the window that Yankees just jumped out of. So it was just like, they do play a lot of these teams like a fiddle in this tournament at the moment. And it's just interesting to watch them run circles around some of these players. Again, back to the main scene. Because it was 7 minutes when I said I'd stop talking about it, and now it's 11. And you got QODEX up on high, taking shots down towards TakeAim Gaming. Now, QODEX have had really suffered, John, right here on Sanhok. Almost unable to get out of Painan without taking some casualties, and then also refused to leave this position.
Buggy tyre popped. We're going to make it a little bit harder. A lot of teams have made their way eastward. I think Na'Vi's fast rotate enabled by that early boot camp position. Very, very nice stuff coming through, allowing them to take a northwestern point of quarry in this next circle. Just going to certainly be a linchpin rotational path for teams up to the north.
Yeah, they also leave these two players from Arab Champions as well. So, you know, it's nice to get to see them on the screen because it does really highlight a big thing for Na'Vi is that, yeah, they're very decisive when it comes to team fighting and can quickly wipe out players. Tixie in particular, who has 2 of the eliminations there. But they're also still just as decisive when it's time to leave a fight behind. They see this circle head over towards the eastern side. They leave boot camp. They leave the 2 players on the northern edge just to themselves and instead figure out a better position within the circle for themselves around the quarry. You can see there's no one really dead center. That's because it is the quarry there. It's a huge dip into the quarry if you haven't played too much Sanhok before. So it's not worth it playing in there because you will just get shot out by all these teams that are currently on the edge at the moment. It's one of these games where an eastern circle or a western circle can really shake up this game. Even a south or a north one, it's no longer a case that, you know, you'd have teams towards the center that can kind of play around every single circle that we get. You will get one team that's heavily favored. And in this case, for Romanian men is going to get a really good deal here. XTEAM, though, I just wonder how well they can hold this southwest edge.
Against Na'Vi pushing down on that west side if they opt to go for it. TakeAim Gaming pushing in. QODEX as well on the outside, proving to be troublesome. The thing that they have right now, if they move further south immediately, is that there's a little bit of space, but MUERTE are going to close that in, so are QODEX.
Yeah, it's really figure out where you want to move. And I think for Na'Vi, slight hesitation here. It is difficult because you are sending into a really rough spot, but it looks like they spotted out some of these players from Game Lord.
Oh, shutting down the crash almost immediately there. Hopefully they're going to be able to pick up all the eliminations for it. No one's going to steal them away. Na'Vi going strong right now. Narvalo, excellent pre-fire on the corner. Here's those footsteps. Tags Meku pretty hard here. Goes for more. Vector in hand. Tries to go for the spray, but it won't be good. Na'Vi hold out Game Lord on that northwestern side. They are in this next circle. They do have time. They can get healed up with all 4 of those players just crashing on in. That's going to be a nice refresh on meds, on armor.
Also gives them the opportunity, if they really want to send over north side and try and sweep on that eastern edge. It wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, especially after taking essentially the northern team out of the match. So I wouldn't mind that play, but it looks like they are going to continue pushing down towards the south side. XTEAM, I don't really think they pose much of a threat, but, you know, 2 games in a row from Erangel to Sanhok now, taking down XTEAM, it's just insult to injury there. Again, it hasn't happened yet, so we have to wait and see if XTEAM can hold things up. Because seeing Na'Vi was so on the money here.
Half a mag for 2 players on the knock, on a bike as well. That's no easy feat. Na'Vi doing excellent work to just decimate Game Lord in that scenario.
Yeah.
Now teams start to have to move.
I think that's the difference, though, between them and VP. And we didn't make a big song and dance about that play there from Matic, essentially getting 3 knocks instantaneously. Old boy, super clutch, but Matic does sometimes make these clutches and these squad wipes look very easy. And I think that's what's really cool about him.
Exactly right, because you've got Old boy, sure, he's making those clutches, but Na'Vi are, at the moment, Matic specifically, are trying to not make those clutch situations happen in the first place, which in essence is a better way to play.
Absolutely. So I think for VIRTUS.PRO at the moment, they do need to rally just a little bit around Old Boy. I think when they had Chulika also doing some heavy lifting for the team, they really did enjoy some good games because of that. And it doesn't look like Chulika's really not putting the work in the moment. It feels like they have just got a little bit unlucky some of the times. And Old Boy, though, is really showing his presence, more so because he has to now if he wants to drag his team through towards getting some points today, which he absolutely has done, even getting that third place there our last game on Miramar. Unicorns of Love doing their best to play things cautiously out in Sanhok. They know there's teams around them, but they don't want to make any bold moves as of yet. They have 4 players, so why really push the boat out too far, especially on this eastern edge where we had a lot of teams over towards the western side. They can kind of chill it out just a little bit now.
Circle moving away from Na'Vi, away from XTEAM. Will force that rotation. Na'Vi moving straight through XTEAM's position, and Nightmare already spotting Kitsune. Now they know there's players here. Can Na'Vi regroup around it? 4 Romanian men trying to look out that way. Double prediction for MUERTE on the south side. Okay, coming from Max and Kalaris.
I mean, hopefully they can keep that momentum going from last game into this one. This was the question we asked earlier, as Na'Vi versus XTEAM. Already Zombie and Andy are down. Kitsune also lay bare there. Will be behind the rock, so he is safe. There's no real chance of any nades coming through. Tixi wants to clear out this outpost at the moment. No one currently in it, but still, it does pose a threat to them.
Getting that res up onto Zombie at the back. Nightmare still forward guard. In the meantime, there's more trouble on the south side as Big seems to be getting swept out here. Just Miki left. MUERTE holding out. English is down, is knocked. And with the zone moving in, might have to get a little bit of assistance fairly quickly. Miki trying to tag on tag. They try to sail past and will have to come up against MUERTE as well. ARB still have where they are there, and QODEX is going to guard out on that northern scoop.
Yeah, MUERTE's taking a lot of fights at the moment. English gets knocked again from Arab Champions. That's one of the players. I think that they had a lot of opportunities to move further into the circle here. Instead, they've opted to try and hold out this crossing. But with Quarry in, and a lot of teams moving over the top of Camp Charlie, like, this is realistically one of the only rotational paths. You're going to have a huge pile up here. I think for MUERTE, they could just leave this behind now, which they're currently doing. You see Flake actually move off in the distance. Now QODEX as well as Tag are going to be taking this fight. They're looking for Wadir. I haven't found him as of yet.
He's in the cave entrance at the moment. And could prove to be fairly effective at giving cover in this scenario. MUERTE, sure, they look like they're on top of him, but actually it seems like they might have slipped down towards the coast side and might be able to spot him out here in the end. QODEX still curtailing the rotation from Take-Aim Gaming. Na'Vi on the north side, I think they've lost a player out in the blue, and it looks like they are going to take another knock as well in this engagement against XTEAM. And they will get flushed out on the northwest side. Not ideal. Pushing past XTEAM. You wouldn't have thought that that would have been too much trouble for Na'Vi, but it proves to be just a little too much, unfortunately. They will not be going any further in this game.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of help there given through from QODEX, actually, over towards XTEAM. MADBULLS, though, really nice rotations coming down from that north side. They've taken their time with it. Yes, they don't have a huge amount of eliminations at the beginning of the game, but they enter into one of our final circles. There were 6 eliminations and a really, really strong compound. I believe someone did predict MADBULLS this game.
It would have been Jason, because I know that MUERTE was predicted by 2 analysts, James and Max. So we will see. MADBULLS get this one, though, because they are looking strong.
Yeah, I think that's a really strong spot from MADBULLS. I think, you know, Death Machine would be very lucky if they could even make their way in.
There it is. Spray downs continue to pour on through for MUERTE. Not Resable out in this blue right now. So unfortunately, MUERTE guaranteed to be down yet another player, leaving them only at 2. Dareev and Striker. Dareev the only one close to the zone, but Striker sends in the vehicle. Wants to push himself in even more danger. Gets to the rock, gets to some cover, hits the deck, and Vito's right there.
He has 5 nades. I mean, I'd just send it at this point. Ladder up just a little bit and get rid of one of your opponents in that position. But there's another nade. It's from Beg for Mercy.
XTEAM still going on the western side. Death Machine and MADBULLS coming into conflict on the north. We'll have to move south in due course, but Zerek is going to push in. The spray's not quite landing. And just goes down to the Molotov.
That seemed like a very bold res, in my opinion. I said it, I was like, he's just going for it. There's only one smoke. This is very obvious where you are. MADBULLS do have to come down the hill, and VP have a little bit of a wall to play around with. So, old boy, it's time to shine. They have to come down. They have to get a couple of these knocks as they come into the circle, though. Going to be difficult with the amount of trees that are still available to MADBULLS, though, for VP to spot anything. And with that vehicle, that is giving away the position of VP. Old boy moves away from it to prevent the damage, but Yankee still taking shots. Beg for mercy, in fact, from XTEAM entering into this one.
Darayev and Roll Kiss from MUERTE and Unicorn's Love, respectively. Out in the blue, looking like they're going to go for the heals. Zombie shimmying through the undergrowth. QODEX still have Veto in this next circle. Oh, an XTEAM pop a nade over towards MADBULLS. Zerek now wanted to find something. That's a lot of damage, but there's a backstab. Veto comes on out. Beg for Mercy is down, and now it's just Zombie.
Well, that could have been a game there for VP if it wasn't for those pesky QODEX players.
That's right.
Beg for Mercy and XTEAM are really putting in some work versus them. Center circle now, though, so both teams have to push this. 2v3. But a little bit of cover still available for VP. There's a lot of hard cover, though, in front of the MADBULLS at the moment. And really, there's only one position that VP could be in for this amount of time to have not been spotted. So smokes are really essential. That amount of damage onto Zerish, really important from Old Boy. 8 eliminations so far. Now to a 2v2. With that knock, they can start to push up. Goodness me, this actually could be a VP win if they play this out correctly. No utility for effect either.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Out in the blue now as well. Needs to start to push in. Yankee makes a mad dash and gets cut down for his trouble. Old boy now being ticked as well. Spraying over onto Skills, gets another. It's just effect out in the zone. Is they going to get the heal? They make it happen. But there's Dadaev still in. Get in, MUERTE. He needs to get into the zone, and MUERTE still going. Oh, it was right on the wire there, but he could still do it. Pushes up. Is he going to spot Old Boy? Does he have the meds? Look to your right. Look to the rock. Can you get the spray, Dadaev? But the heal is there for Old Boy. And VP take it home, give this man a wall, and watch the world burn.
I cannot believe what we have just witnessed there. Again, it's all the things that he has to do. Yes, Na'Vi makes squad wipes look easy, but oh boy, he really does paint a beautiful picture at the end of the game. And I still can't believe they were able to take that win. Really, really well done. Yankee even pushing out to prevent them from pushing into the blue whilst Old Boy sits behind on top of the rock and is able to peek over the top there. It's all so meticulously done. Some really good calls coming through for VP. And from the beginning of the game, you expect a clutch play like that. You're like, I mean, that feels like it deserves a chicken dinner in and of itself. But you know down in your heart that, like, look, at the end of the day, they're down to 2 players now. It's going to be really difficult for them. But Old Boy still takes it home, in which is a very precarious situation at the end.
That was absolutely incredible. I think he picked up all 3, maybe, of those flushes towards the end. I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe Yankee got 1 or 2, but that was incredible stuff coming through from the duo from VP. Yankee absolutely rallying around the star player of the moment, of today so far. I mean, this guy has been on fire in every single situation.
He has to get those knocks as they go down the hill. He has to. And it's a big ask for some of these players, especially when there's 3 on the hillside and he's taking these shots. Even just a few shots towards Zerish as he's first aiding. So he goes down in the blue. Like, he's able to just do it all. And you know what? I couldn't ask for any more. But I can perhaps ask for an analyst desk who will be here with us very shortly in possibly 1 second.
That's not how it works. You can't ask us questions. We ask each other questions. How dare you? No, we saw Old Boy. I really don't have any words for how ridiculous he's been today now in back-to-back matches. Miramar and the Sanhok. This man can do it all.
He started off the game as a 1v3 clutch versus TJB, got 1 teammate back up to his Yankee, and then they get into the late game, and they actually get themselves the win. And he does that twice in a row. This man just carries the team on his back twice in a row. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's Old Boy.
Nice.
What did you expect of him coming in Western Europe, right?
I mean, yeah, the final moments as well, I was popping off. I'm like, he's got a wall. What's he going to do? And then all of a sudden he moves up to a rock and I'm like, what he can do with a wall, imagine what he can do with a rock. And apparently it worked out. Unbelievable stuff coming in here from VIRTUS.PRO and Old Boy especially. I mean, come to the end of the day, you know, we know who we're going to be picking for MVP of the day, I think is fair to say, with everything going on here. This is, these performances back to back to back are unheard of in terms of an individual standout. So good.
And also eliminates the top MVP contenders of Phase 1 at the end there of MADBULLS, both Effect, and also the other player that was on the side of Xeric. So he really is stepping up to become potentially the MVP of the entire PMPL season here. Man, impressive stuff there at the bottom. A few teams, though, were not quite able to show up, and especially this fight, I think that we saw at the very start of the replays. Eastern Stars versus Big seemed like Big really are trying to almost chase down Eastern Stars, I feel, because normally they know their drop locations, but here you go, the fight, picks up one, goes for the dub one, instantly put his focus on the remaining player.
That.
He should have.
Shot from behind. Like, how
Boy.
shouldn't win?
It's Old Boy. What do you want? I don't know. It's, as Kalara said, Old Boy and Walls are a deadly duo. Yeah.
It's fair, it's fair. And I mean, you just look at some of these moments as well. Na'Vi, yeah, they didn't quite get themselves the absolute top spot in this, but you're seeing as Game Law's trying to make transitions, but they're just getting gunned down by Na'Vi very quickly on transition. It really feels like having all of these teams enter the fold now and constantly showing their power in every situation is really causing problems for what was, and to a certain degree, still kind of is, the top of West Europe. These teams are having such a hard time dealing with the extra power that is now in these lobbies.
Yeah, and I think one of the examples was actually what we saw with 4 Romanian men. I was actually just checking. I mean, southeast of Cori, they have a compound there. MADBULLS actually have to push between 2 teams of VIRTUS.PRO and of Death Machine, and they just crash the compound and win the fight. And that should ideally never really happen.
What?
He's just blasting. Just blasting today.
He's just going for it. Also, the fact he got Yankee back up at the end there, like they were just gonna lock in that game 100%. There was no way it's gonna escape from them. But yeah.
I will say, in those final moments, as we take a look at the numbers of VIRTUS.PRO, there was a moment where MUERTE could have stolen that if Old Boy had not been on that side of the rock, if he doesn't know exactly where the healer was in the blue, because you peek over that ridge as MUERTE, and if you shoot down Old Boy in that moment, if they're on the other side of the rock, not knowing the direction of the healer, he could have got that. But fortunately for VIRTUS.PRO, and you know, obviously the amazing performance they had in this game anyway, they do take the chicken dinner, but it was a little closer than it might have looked there at the end.
Just really quickly to also bring this up as well. This is data from all of the day. This is not just from the Sanhok match, just to clarify, because I was looking, I was like, he could have probably did about 1,400 damage, to be fair, on Sanhok, but this is throughout the day. But I mean, just look, like, this is such a big individual performance. He's got over double the damage of Yankee. He's got 3 more eliminations. He's got 7 knocks as well. Not that Mira or Tulika are bad in any sort of way, but Old Boy is just playing out of his skin in this match, or in this day.
If they remain as a 3 or 4 man squad until the very end, like we saw in that previous game on Miramar and also this game on Sanhok, I think they closed them off like fair and square. I think there's a very big chance of that happening. So maybe they got to iron that thing out and make sure they can keep 3, 4 players alive at the very end, especially Tulika. Tulika was an outstanding player at the end of the first phase. He's not been able to really stay alive too much today, unfortunately, but I mean, they're already 3 games in. They got 1 more remaining before they're done, and you got 1 more game left to play, and they're pretty much already done it. Like, they hit the average, they're looking great, and potentially have already closely overtaken MADBULLS in the overall rankings of the entire event.
Yeah, definitely possible, and I think they should be up towards #1 overall within the day. But before we get to actually taking a look at our overalls, I wanted to look at Old Boy and his player radar from the event so far, just to get an idea of where he is in the grand scheme of things. And I would imagine after today as well, he should probably be #1 for MVP in the overall event, not just today alone.
Ooh, I think that there was a little bit too much of a lead in the way of Xeric and also Effect for MADBULLS. I think it's going to require more than 1 day, but what? Oh, whoa. Okay. Is he, wait, I'm looking right now. Is he the top damage, eliminations, knocks, and assists?
Yes.
I think so.
That's how this works, Max. Yes.
I didn't know if it was a few pixels behind, and I was getting close to my screen, but he is in fact leader.
I just did that exact same thing too. I just like,
oh, you
got
did.
I got the magnifying glass to make sure.
Wow. The people I work with. Great job, guys. Just get really close, see what's going on there. But I mean, there's a lot of headshots as well coming in. So.
What blows my mind, right, is that if you think about Old Boy's story, okay, we'll hold off on Old Boy's story really quick as we take a look at our overalls rankings on the day so far. They're actually just barely ahead of Na'Vi, only by 2 points, and I didn't actually expect that.
The thing is that, I mean, some of the clutch moments we've seen from them have happened in games where they've not necessarily converted as many placement points as you might have expected, I suppose, right? So they could have pushed in our mind's eye. What we're seeing is all these amazing moments, but they're not winning out a game apart from this last one that had come in here. So yeah, across the board, it's been an impressive performance from VIRTUS.PRO so far, but not quite edging out as much of a lead as you may expect.
Yeah, I just checked actually for Old Boy, so he's overtaken both Effect and Zurich when it comes to eliminations. If he gets just a little bit more damage and a little bit more average survival time, he should be MVP. So he's definitely got a few things to work on. But in terms of eliminations, he's top of the entire lobby right now. So I mean, Old Boy's really stepped up in the past, like, what, 4 days of play currently, so he's on board.
Yeah, you can see the rest of the lineup here. I wanted to talk about Old Boy a little bit more and a little bit story, but we can see some other teams we have over in our 9th through 16th place. We got Big down there, Eastern Stars, TJB. I mean, to be fair, TJB is kind of where we expected them to be off the basis of this first phase that we had happen. But again, 2-3 matches in for these teams, not gonna really be surprised when teams can easily shoot up from the second page easily into the first with just one chicken dinner.
Yeah, it could be pretty quick. We'll have to see if teams can make the adaptations right. TJB haven't still seen the changes. That hot drop was a little bit rough for them, but towards the bottom.
Speaking of rough.
Okay, yeah, tough one, especially for like QODEX. They really fell off when it came to that first part of the first phase, and Game Lord, well, I said I was going to predict them. I'm going to have to try and predict them and try out the water, see if it's going to work out. But yeah, Game Lord has been unfortunately not on par, and Eastern Star's been getting more points, so that gap for PMGC is slowly tightening.
And Big only 11 points after 3 games here. A little bit of a disappointment for me. But I will say on this Sanhok game, they've gone back to what looks like their old drop spot. They had an engagement with Eastern Stars, which was interesting, considering that these two teams, I think it was you, Jason, that pointed out, considering that they know that these guys are here for, you know, in terms of this drop spot. But then the circle's kind of far away. So it is difficult to transition. We saw them in the blue for a long time. So for this Sanhok, can't hold it against them too much.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold it against them too much. But again, they got to start to step up here. We know Big from the past. We know how good they can be. But for you guys at home, we're curious, how are you guys watching PMPL? Maybe you're watching by the pool. Maybe you're watching on the beach. Maybe you're chilling in your room. Who knows? Make sure you guys tweet it in. Actually post on our social media with the hashtag PMPLWEU and let us know. And we'll actually show some of these over on air. But Talent, we are not allowed to do it because it's a little bit unfair because we have the best view. We have the view with all the lads here. We get to chat with them. And speaking of the lads, we're missing 2, so we're going to bring them in to bring us the 4th match of the day. John, Allen, and Blank.
That's us, Blank. We're lads now, officially decreed by Mr. Jason Kaplan himself, host of the PMPL Western Europe. He wants it to be summer, but it's fall.
Yeah, one of the boys, one of the lads. We are part of the Ladkins, a family, army, yes, all those things. But yeah, I just treated myself to a quick cookie because I was so pleased with the way that Old Boy was playing. I was like, you know what? This has been a good day. It was a rainbow plain cookie. I don't really know how to describe it.
All right.
It had various things that were colourful and chocolatey.
Sugar shell coated chocolates, right?
Essentially, yes, that's what I had. And that's exactly what Old Boy sending down range a lot of the times, the shell-coated chocolate. But yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. I think at the moment, Old Boy is really standing out as probably one of the most unbelievable performances in a single day of PMPL that we've seen in quite a while, actually. And I think Kalaris touched on this wonderfully. It's like, as a singular standout, you don't see this very often. And to get the clutch and then to get the win, which is something I was talking at the end there, it's something that's just unheard of. A lot of times you see the clutch and you're extremely happy for the team, but at that point on Sanhok, down to 2 players, so unlikely that you're able to grab a win. But despite all that, they still pick out a fairly contested compound. I think that's what I was thinking about during the analyst test. The fact that they go to that compound in the first place, John, is kind of wild. It's just 2 players and then have the confidence to hold it out. Again, it does have walls. We know Old Boy. Apparently that gives them a power up of 9,000. So that's okay.
Hear me out. Walled Boy.
Walled
Boy. Huh?
Nah, we gotta keep it as old boy. I mean, he was, I think, you know, if we look back to, you know, his old origins, not in terms of old boy himself, the player, but the movie he comes from. You know, he's surrounded by brick walls, so he was molded by the brick walls. That's fair play that he would find so much comfortability behind them a lot of times. Anyway, back onto Erangel with my bad metaphors, bad theories.
Well, not VIRTUS.PRO aren't going to be playing this game, so he is going to be able to take a little bit of a breather.
Put him on ice.
Give
fresh ice.
Give the teams fresh ice. That's right. Give the teams behind them a little bit of a chance to maybe gain some ground. I mean, Unicorns of Love, 2 games played, 35 points. VIRTUS.PRO, 3 games played, 40 points. That's only 5 more points in that 1 extra game that they've been able to find. So Unicorns of Love still very much on track. And if we're talking about individuals as well, Na'Vi, who are right behind them by 2 points right now on the same game total. Matic has been absolutely standout today for them. Not in a super flamboyant and flashy way, but just consistently giving them that baseline of operation.
Yeah, I think if we look at any of these top players, stats that are coming through, I think Na'Vi has had a player in each and every one of them so far. So they really have been blasting out of their mind at the moment, which is really nice to see so far. But again, we'll see how this all breaks down at the moment, John. Obviously, like you said, VIRTUS.PRO not in this game, but Na'Vi looking to put up a few more points here to try and overtake.
Yeah, it's the Na'Vi opportunity, it's the Unicorns of Love opportunity, and actually Pioneer as well, fairly close behind Unicorns of Love, also on 2 games. Because, I mean, Unicorns of Love, they got their chicken dinner. They started the day really, really well. They continue to convert that. Pioneer, same number of games, only 1 point behind them. We haven't really spoken too much about them. That first Erangel that they played in, they got really, really deep into, and they got fair deep into the other game that they played. I believe that was the Miramar, if I'm not mistaken. They also played up pretty late into that
Second
one.
place.
Yeah, exactly. So they have been there, but I feel like we haven't really spoken too much about them because Old Boy has been there this whole time, and he's been this massive presence in today's games.
Yeah, he's very distracting. We'll put it that way. But I do think that we have chatted about Pioneer a few times. Towards the beginning of the day, we talked about, you know, how they were getting a lot more aggressive towards the end of phase 1. Which is something that they desperately needed to do. I think they have the players for it. Their macro is very strong, but I think sometimes they'll favor an unconventional rotation over just taking a fight in front with the team that's maybe in their way. And I think that's something that they have to do a lot more. And it's something they've been incorporating a lot more often now towards the end of phase 1 and the beginning of phase 2, which I like to see because they are a strong team. And you don't always have to go for those crazy rotations to avoid people when you are just better than some people. And you just take those fights, which is where, you know, we might see some shift-ups in terms of phase 2 here. In phase 1, again, we were just looking at teams trying to figure out where people stood, where people sat, you know, where the team's overall power level was at. And then people could start to make some decisions around there in terms of rotations. Which teams can we hit harder? Which teams can we rotate through? And which teams are going to give them some problems if we rotate past them in the early game. In phase 2, a lot of that is now figured out, but there's still a few things that need to be addressed. In particular, certain teams, because they're new rosters, will be getting better in phase 2. And I think phase 3 is where we'll see our most consistency in terms of teams right at the top of the rankings at the moment.
But can the teams who do well early maintain that lead? And on the flip side, can teams that don't do well early catch up? It's really going to be interesting to see on those overalls who's going to pick up those bonus points and get themselves in towards the finals. On the north side of the map, we saw Takem Gaming making the Raz over towards the north side without Big in this game as well. That means Severny is very, very likely to be free, to be open, ripe for the taking. And in this current circle, it's a good position to have as well.
Yeah, it's really nice, especially if this does drop over towards North George. This will be a happy game for Na'Vi because I think it's one of the few northwestern circles we've had in quite a while. A lot of times Na'Vi's had to make some very early rotates from North George, avoiding Pioneer in the process and finding their way into the circle early on to try and pick up some eliminations. And sometimes they'll get knocked on the way out of there. So this time they get to sit tight and wait for the other teams to come their way. Just looking at the rankings very quickly again to bring it back their way. MADBULLS is currently sat in 6th place with 26 points, just 1 point behind SHOCKWAVE with 27. But their overall elimination points is at 15, which is above every team over the Na'Vi and tied with VIRTUS.PRO in 1st place. So the only thing they're really lacking at the moment is those placement points. And again, we said it earlier, they're making the right decisions to get into the circle, but getting thwarted maybe a few times on the edge. So you asked about teams being able to keep up that kind of pace, and it feels like MADBULLS are still bringing that momentum over from last phase, where they hit a whopping 306 total points, which is brilliant for them, especially for PMGC points, because there is an odd world where they catch up to some of the teams right at the front of PMGC placements.
It really depends on Game Lord, right? Because they're the current front runners. They got 222 points last week, and at the moment, they haven't had the best of entries into today's games. It has to be said, with only getting 3 points over 2 games blank. It's not great, but there's still plenty of time to pick it up. There's a lot of games per phase, and if they've already secured their PMGC spot, then one has to wonder, do you treat this more as like a scrim ground?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they still have to hold on to that spot, though. I think Eastern Stars is behind them at I think it's something like 750 points at the moment, and Game Lord sat up at the top side with 900. I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head. I am not a human database, unfortunately. I wish I was, but I don't have that capability yet. Someone could maybe install a Raspberry Pi in my brain. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Do you think we could sort it out? Cyberpunk style?
Perhaps. It was Game Lord at the start of the day. I believe this was at the start of the day. 9:51 for Game Lord, and Eastern Stars were 8:15. So it was 36 points behind for Eastern Stars. So if Eastern Stars can profit that, then great news. But 951 points, even over 3 weeks. That's going to be a tall order for anyone to take down if they're coming into this one.
Yeah.
But MADBULLS started on 436, so they do have about a 500-point gap to make up over these next two phases.
Quite difficult, quite tough. TJB has just been roaming around all over the place. They haven't really been making a set rotation. They've just been sending into teams, then been sent away from teams. They went to go look up towards MADBULLS' spot, just shot one of the players, knocked them, and then ran away after flushing them. TJB is doing some weird stuff at the moment, so not really sure what to think about them right now, but we'll see. I'm curious to see where they do end up, because currently got a 2-2 split between both the North Island and Rozhok, so it's really confusing me. Take Aim Gaming, again, you said they drop up towards Severny because Big's not in the game. It's a good spot for them. They could head down towards Box Compound, but at the moment, Ruthless Esports have picked that up very, very early. It's a strong spot to hold, but with the 4 buildings between it, you also need to hold the bank side and also watch out towards teams coming on the north, and you can't defend in between those buildings. The windows just don't give you that view. So if there's teams coming on from the north, sometimes you might have to abandon the bank side, and you might even get third-partied, but a little less likely here on Erangel than it is in Sanhok. So if you need to focus fire, make it happen.
Circle centers on the river, so it is split north and south. Yet again, no clear decision to be made for a lot of these teams. Na'Vi playing it fairly slow compared to the circles that drop away from them. They are still, at least Meku is in Georgia Pole on the north. Kitsune on the east side, a little bit less loot focused right now. If Meku can grab all of those meds, all of those utility pieces, the smokes, the nades, potentially able to distribute those out in the coming moments.
Yeah, Tixie and Matic head up a little bit further towards Zaki, and we'll just continue looting up North George. I think they'll be absolutely stacked. They don't have to share this with anyone else either. They've got that forward scouting Kitsune who's providing information back towards them. So if anyone comes close, they'll know about it. Everest might be a position where someone wants to head up towards, but at the moment it's Death Machine and XTEAM fighting for Castle.
Ooh, Zombie spotted. Zombie be doing fairly well today for XTEAM, who have had a much better performance today than we've seen from them so far this tournament. Can they keep it going? Death Machine, their current challenge. Beg for Mercy starts off well. Pops the shots. The wall is there for a little bit of cover, but it's not going to prove to be too much of a problem. They do trade it off. The flush comes out. I think that one bounced. And Samo and Amodi for Death Machine.
Yeah, smoke bounces back, and they're looking to go for some reses here. Beg for Mercy just got down. I think we were wondering when Beg for Mercy would start to step up a little bit for them. He really was the main player for the team last season. He wasn't really providing too much this time around, but I feel like in Phase 2 already, in the 3 games that we've seen so far, he has had a really good presence within a lot of them in terms of just leading the team forward and taking a lot of the initial fights between them.
I think it's Zombie so far today, though, with 8 eliminations, I believe, who's been absolutely carrying the team in terms of the raw points. See if they can keep it on going. At the moment, Death Machine certainly on the back foot. NASA really struggling here as the nades start to run thin.
Yeah, again, though, this is where there's differences between those high-caliber teams that are able to finish fights out quickly. Both of these guys are quite hesitant to start fighting. You can sympathize with Death Machine, though, considering they have the low ground. You can't sympathize so much with XTEAM, who just aren't taking this fight despite having the high ground here. NASA's put down, though.
Beg for Mercy into a 1 versus 1 around the rock. We'll be able to win that one out. Samo now at the back. Very, very split. And it will be XTEAM to continue to trump this fight. Shockwave moving around on the hillside might prove to be a dangerous third party.
The 2 eyes on Samo as Zombie drops down. Again, this is one of those things where, you know, you do see a team like XTEAM making some mistakes there. Zombie not waiting for the crossfire when he peeks up again. Everyone's far back, so being that singular player in Church, you really don't want to be the one peeking first. You want to assist on those fights being that off angle. But getting knocked there has really slowed down XTEAM and their fight between them and Death Machine. Again, this is something I feel should have ended a long time ago. Circle does move up towards shooting range, and Na'Vi will be very happy with this one. They can either play in the tree line or hope to play on the edge of Georgia Pole and kind of hold out a lot of teams trying to get in and find a compound for themselves. Already Pioneer are looking for that route inwards.
But they are split on Na'Vi's side. They aren't really at full force at this stage. Still holding in North George with 2 of their players. Not really the strongest show for the current circle shifts, looking to regroup potentially in the coming moments, but this South Coast is going to get a whole lot redder any moment now.
This is MADBULLS down to 3. Spat a lot of players here from Eastern Stars. I wonder if they caught the mid-rotation effect, though. Just find at least 1.
Around the side of the vehicle. Spray in the back up there for MADBULLS, playing off one another. And they dispatch the Eastern Stars fairly handily. Although they do lose skills, and they are at 3 now.
Yeah, they lost skills earlier to TJB, actually. This is when they were just roaming around and taking shots and knocks and stuff. So it was a really quite a convincing 3v4 versus Eastern Stars. So I do think they caught them mid-rotate. Again, still, I think you picked out the major thing there is MADBULLS playing off one another. I think that in terms of team play, MADBULLS are really good in that regard. And Effect's still just as strong as he always was. I think this is one of the guys that was very much in contention for that MVP spot and still is up towards the top of the rankings. So Old Boy quickly climbing those rungs at the almost terrifying rate at which you hear the metal bonks coming off from the hands slapping on him.
Not sure about that one.
You know what I mean?
But we'll go with it.
Yeah, everybody's climbed up the sewer before to escape something behind you and heard the metal bonks.
The slap and bonk.
Slap and bonk?
That's right. I don't know what
to get a sound clip now and put that on Instagram so everybody knows what I'm talking about. But let's look it up now.
yeah, go for it.
I'm joking.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you though?
Yeah.
Unless
I am at home. I do have full access to Google, but I shall not be using it right now.
Oh, that's very disciplined of you.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Scary thing having full access to the internet.
I know. Honestly, I don't know why they trust us with it, but here we are. MUERTE moving under the purview of the MADBULLS, who are actually potentially a little bit preoccupied with the movements of Take Aim Gaming. On the south side, MUERTE might have just escaped a danger they knew not.
Yeah, I did like that from watching Monkey's POV there, where he's doing the exact same thing as all of us whenever we play in our matches, which is the quick 360 swivel whilst driving. It's like, I just need to see where someone is, please. A little bit more difficult. Hamo from Arab Champions finds one of the players from Unicorns I love there. Let's try and locate where this currently is. This is down towards Crates in South George. So still a ways to go, and Circle actually sent us up on top of TJB. I know I talked about earlier about them randomly rotating around. I will still stick by that. They found a good spot. Yeah.
Ooh, didn't really stick by Icy there, unfortunately. A little bit split, but Hamo pays the price for giving up location information. Jamaz now, the backstop for ARB, the only player standing. Probably wiser to disengage here. There's the flush. Gonzo picks that one up. No bother. Jamaz drops the smokes. They will have to leave these crates soon enough, so maybe you wait for the Unicorns to leave, try and grab one off the back. It's only 2 players there, so potential for a good trade. 2 players from XTEAM go down on the bridge. Looks like there was an incident with a buggy.
Yeah, that buggy's flipped over. It's going nowhere down unless you can hit the slick barrel roll. It's kind of GG. XTEAM, I think that's 1 player left in Andy. There's that replay there from Effects. Really, really well done to just bait out, cut some shots, and then immediately around the side, causing a huge amount of chaos. Nightmare's definitely down. Maxman and Kalaris going with the TJP. Now, I think this is a mistake. I don't think TJB could quite live up to the hype at the moment. So we'll see.
Okay, all right. Well, the Na'Vi prediction from Jason is the other option that is on the table. They are currently balled up in the northwest coast near Game Lord, who, if you'll remember in Sanhok, they did absolutely crunch on their approach with excellent sprays coming through from Matic.
I'm going to throw in a MADBULLS victory here.
Okay.
Yeah, just my 2 cents. I feel like TJB is very good at disappointing the analysts, unfortunately.
I thought Redux might have something there, but does get cut down in his prime. Unfortunately for Nexus, Shockwave flanked on to the high ground and low ground pincer maneuver coming through for Pioneer. Currently one of the highest scoring teams so far today, but Nightmare puts him back a peg. That nade's long, it's in the smoke, he's low HP, needs to be careful, and Nightmare goes down to it. 3 players now for Pioneer moving over the top against Aza. Will be able to get that final flush. Jamaz, yet to leave the water, but is still alive. They think they've spotted him at the rock. I believe they have, and that was, goodness me, that was cleaner than a Turkish barber.
Yeah, that was deadly. Very nice. Yeah, it certainly gave him the fade there with the bullets that just sling past the sides on the head. But yeah, very, very easily done. Pioneer, and it's a bit sad though that they do lose one of those players there, John, because I would be fuming if I don't get to come into the circle as far with what was a very clean fight, as you said, John, versus Nexus. Ruthless Esports with 4 players can send nades down towards Pioneer. With the blue pushing them, there's some very obvious angles of approach coming through from them. So this will be a real test for Pioneer. How well can they manage the team in front of them? Smokes are already placed down, and Circle heads over towards Na'Vi. So maybe Jason's finally got the better of all of us.
It was his secret weapon all along. Predict Na'Vi until they win. Although to be fair, he has been changing up all of his predictions every time. He's not doing his old trick of just going for the infinity every time.
I mean, they were a good team.
It's true, but he lost the predictions.
Nexus got EXO in towards the center. TJB move up. Surrounded by a lot of teams at the moment. MUERTE taking shots down towards MADBULLS at the moment, who are caught on this eastern side. It's very clear off towards the west, so very good opportunity now for Pioneer or Ruthless Esports to hold on to the high ground, but I think Pioneer just wanted to give it up.
Yeah, not going to be able to hold down that one, unfortunately. Black-White over the ridge, but Na'Vi now have lines over to it, and the teammates getting peppered at the back. It's really, really sticky right now over on the west. And Ruthless Esports might be able to control a huge amount of this circle from here.
They absolutely will be able to. Oh, okay, Manu.
He's done with it. He's like, come on, Salazar, sort it
Sees
out.
that. Yeah.
Here we go. All right, sorted.
That was pretty brutal, to say the least. TJB in front of MADBULLS at the moment, so they will have to push through. Currently, TJB quite wanting to make too many moves at the moment. Again, this was the team that took down one player from MADBULLS early on. Lin sends in first. He's quite the aggressive scouter, though, is Lin, and oftentimes can find themselves suffering from these aggressive rotates.
GK first. Did get spotted out just a little bit. MADBULLS, all three of them in the same vehicle. They're really going to be limited here. Take Aim Gaming just over that ridge line. Game Lord suffering again at the hands of Na'Vi. After the Sanhok, it only goes one way. TJB now up against Striker. One is the trade. Dadaev there. Last player standing as Zhao is on the floor right now. Waits for the spray to exhaust the magazine and will be able to take revenge for it. MADBULLS try and crest the ridge and Zhao does not have time to get this res. Na'Vi pushing up from underneath against Robs from Game Lord. It's all a bit of a crunch over on this eastern side as Na'Vi are looking to sweep through. Robs moves on in. Ghillie suit in hand. Tixi should have spotted him. That gunshot will give it away as well. Meku wants the rundown and he's going to get it. Meku swings out wide and now Na'Vi can pressure forwards into the circle, sweep the northwest.
Trying to cleanly finish out that fight with Game Lord, and it works out very well. MADBULLS unfortunately go down, but I do love the rotate they make, and we'll talk about that at the end of the game, because right now it's the Na'Vi show. Potentially Jason's able to become even with Maxman on the scores, on the board. Team Doom, though, got very, very far in this game. For once, this is nice to see. I think they did quite well in the first weekend of Phase 1, but really fell off quite a bit.
Trying to bring that pace back up to par. TJB with 2 up the top. Everybody else with 4. Zhao is spotted. TJB really caught up in the middle here, but Tixi suppressing the back of Team Doom. Lin forwards, only player now for TJB. Needs to get this first trade. We'll be able to get it done with the M16. In close range, in comes the rundown attempt, but it's not going to work, unfortunately. It's going to be all gunplay all day as Na'Vi steal that one away.
An uncharacteristic Na'Vi game, actually, with only 4 eliminations. They've been absolutely blasting out of their mind, but I feel like they've seen their results just as we've seen them, where they started this game on 22 eliminations and only 16 placement points. So they're like, well, maybe we need chicken dinner, lads. That's where we're lacking at the moment.
Perhaps if we win a game, we'll get more points. Ruthless Esports, though, spot Tixi up the back. They've had so much sightlines, so much control for quite a while now. Ruthless Esports should be in one of the better positions here. Resable for Na'Vi.
100%. It's a very important knock as well, because it's right on the backside where, you know, they have the most amount of oversight towards this push that Ruthless Esports needs to make across the field. Do pull up in the vehicles, a lot of smoke sent out to create the train that's going to get them over towards Salazar.
And make it all the way. Pocus in the car. Manu as well. As they drop out, reposition. Deposit and go back for Ulysses. Okay, a double dash on the cards as they do swing by, pick it up nice and swift. Salazar with a long nade does take a little bit of damage. The spray across the field as Kitsune finds the off angle. This is the Na'Vi split. Kitsune operating on the sidelines here. A full onside swipe. Tixi lands the nade, and now Ruthless Esports are really on the ropes. Nades over the top. Players pushing on down, and Na'Vi dismantle it surgically here on Erangel.
I mean, for Na'Vi, if you crash into them, they certainly make it look like a crash. It is not easy. You're not rolling up, you're not parking, you're getting out that car, and that car is absolutely mashed to bits. So for Na'Vi, very, very clean at the end there, quickly picking up a lot of the eliminations onto Ruthless Esports, despite them getting that knock early on. I just don't think they expected Kitsune coming out from the smoke on the side with the off angle. Again, it requires precision, it requires accuracy, and requires some very good mechanical skill to pull that off, and having any member from the team being able to do that is really a testament in its own to Na'Vi. So yes, they didn't get the most elimination points that game. They got a fair few, but they did get the placement points they desperately needed, taking them up to a total of 31 now, and with their 1 chicken dinner. Feels very good, and I think that should place them in first place in Phase 2 at the moment. So Na'Vi just consistent today, which is very different from the Na'Vi we saw in phase 1 jump.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a vast change of pace for this team. I mean, to be fair, we did see that sort of glimmer start to appear towards the end of phase 1, but phase 2 is Na'Vi's day, it seems. Will they be able to keep it on going?
Nice to see Na'Vi bounce back, honestly. They were looking quite dreadful when it came to the first phase, but again, it was just one phase. Not a big deal. They still got some points towards the final. And finally, they've been able to secure themselves a first place finish so far within the day. Gentlemen, it was really great to see Na'Vi step up here. Not only because we want to see Na'Vi do great things, but also because I predicted Na'Vi to win that game. So if I remember correctly, that means I'm ahead of Max by 1 point now. But we're still behind Kalaris by a collective 27 points.
A collective 27. I mean, we're behind by a pretty decent margin, but you know what? Hey, fair play. They go for the Northern George Pole drop right, and then the circle going up north like that. There's no way you're going to be. Okay, dude. Can we get rid of? I don't look at this. Yeah.
Stay on this for 5 minutes here.
No, look, the time on the top right is actually the time we're going to look at this graphic. But yeah, as I said, no contest, and also they even drive over game lore just to make me even more salty about that game, apparently. So yeah, but really, and in particular, we saw more from Tixie. I thought Tixie was a little bit, wishy-washy in the past few days, especially in phase 1, but Tixie also did step up big time here, and it seemed like they intend to really make a big impression on this second phase.
What about TJB though, Kalaris? Because you both picked TJB, and this isn't me trying to troll you guys. But as the zone shifted away from them, they didn't really seem to move with it. They just kind of sat there.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not giving me much hope in regards to being able to hold down these fights and deal with them. Yeah, they get 15 points, and actually that's respectable for this game, but I feel like they could have maybe had so much more in terms of the teams trying to breach on against them on the east side. Admittedly, I think it was MADBULLS, which is not exactly the easiest team to kind of fend off anyway, but I want to see TJB run with these circles more when they kind of had them go their way, I feel.
I feel the good way to describe TJB in this game is they were very hesitant. They would just allow teams to just walk on their home turf and just get stepped on, basically. And normally when you're in a position like that, you would like to see the central team try and create some space, push teams away, be really oppressive with that kind of position. And TJB just didn't do that and then allowed, as you said, MADBULLS to get close. And MADBULLS, when they get close, unfortunately, pretty much that does mean the end for you a lot of the time. So yeah, TJB still some rough times here.
What about RUTHLESS though? We noticed during the match that Manu was in instead of Nano Baby, if I'm not mistaken. Switching some things up. We know their roster in the previous iterations definitely needed a switch up as well. I think it was Sebi was on the team that they brought in Salazar, and they had great success with that switch up. Manu now coming into the roster for this match here. They had pretty good success.
Yeah, I would say a pretty necessary change, right? We see that there was not a great amount of top games, top performances for them in phase 1, and I think that they know that they need to make a change. Manu was also, even though he stood out every once in a while in the previous season of PMPL, so he is definitely a player that can step up given the right circumstance, and here they get himself a few decent points, so good on RUTHLESS, but we still need to see a little bit more consistency, which unfortunately we saw many times in the past when they were still under like different team names. They sometimes get a few good games and then they just instantly fall off, and I think that that's why our hopes have somewhat died for RUTHLESS, is because even if they get a few good games, it's like, well, it's not going to last, right? So we need to see more of them being on top.
So harsh there, Max.
I mean, they broke our hopes of them like performing so many times. I feel like at some point, like, well, if we don't see a few days in back to back where they do perform, then I'm not on the bandwagon anymore.
They're very similar to Bigatron in my eyes, actually. Before Bigatron went through all these roster changes, they were just stagnating for such a long time. They had a roster swap with obviously Salazar coming in the case of this, and we saw them start to improve, and then they stagnated a little bit. So maybe it just needs to be a couple of swaps to really get them going, or maybe just a change in ideas, maybe a change in leadership, something. But I mean, we've seen them around for such a long time. We've seen them play at this level for such a long time. But Kalaris, they haven't made that progression to the next level yet, and we're wondering, is it going to happen?
Yeah, still need to see more from them even beyond this game, because yes, they get themselves a second place, but they had what is the kind of hills north of Cube compound for a long time during this game. So all they have to do is really hold off during all of that. And then Na'Vi, likewise though, on the opposite side of this, had a decent transition from Georgia Pole secured from them on the west side into these circles, because they were ever present with their scouting and understanding of teams that were ahead of them, even holding off teams that were coming from the east bridges near Georgia Pole to then transition, knowing that there aren't that many teams lingering to the south of them, and understanding that Game Lord was to the north. So they put in a really good, strong showing here, and then come the end of the game, there's no world where Ruthless is able to take them out on the high ground they had.
I'm really happy you brought up actually the scouting of Na'Vi, because at some point when they were starting to leave Northern Georgia Pole, that 1-1 split from the two scouters, which is Meku and Kitsune. Yeah. Kitsune was actively scouting the more southern side of the river, and then you had Meku who was scouting from a hilltop, the more northeastern edge of the circle, and they were just keeping their options open in terms of if the circle goes south, we can rotate wherever Kitsune scouted. If it goes north, which is what happened at the end, we're going to go wherever Meku has scouted and when we see a spot is currently open. So just Na'Vi being able to keep those options open so early on in a game where the river is play is so important. So yeah, the scouting, as you said already, there, Kalaris, was really important for them to get to that win there.
I mean, Max, you also, I think, started off this whole breakdown here talking about Tixi, how he's been kind of lackluster as of late. Second on damage on the day, pretty good out of him, actually.
Yeah, I would say expected from him when you look back at his previous track record, right? I think in previous tournaments that I have seen Na'Vi play, it's been a lot of Meku and Matic. Like Meku, Matic, they're the fragging duo. They're exceptionally strong when it comes to them playing together. But yeah, Tixi, I think that's shown in like the past 2 years that he is incredibly gifted as an individual player, but he's felt a little bit on the leeway recently, a little bit to the side. But I want to see him get back in full force. I think that Tixi is a player that is on potentially the caliber of a player like Old Boy. He just takes a little bit more time to adapt to the lobby, but Tixi is a scary foe to go up against.
But to that point, though, now we were so sure that before this game it was going to be Old Boy that's the MVP. I think Matic's, for the day at least, I think Matic's probably making a case to rival that. So this last game, actually, no, I think both of... No, Na'Vi's
Old Boy's not playing.
He should be out.
Right?
Yeah, I think Group A's out, right? I don't remember. We'll touch on it a little bit of time. What we are going to touch on for now, though, is our top two teams between Na'Vi and VIRTUS.PRO on the day. This doesn't feel... I guess this doesn't feel right. Is it right? I mean, Na'Vi did have a lot of eliminations, so that is very reasonable.
It quite easily could be, because Na'Vi was keeping up with VIRTUS.PRO despite the, again, what we'd seen in terms of highlights from VIRTUS.PRO coming in. And if you could add up all the numbers from what we saw from Na'Vi's roster just before, that would ring true with what we've seen. 31 eliminations across this day. That's yeah, that is crazy number. They've played their 4 matches, they're done, but that is a lot from just 4 games here today.
I mean, I guess that's the difference, right, Max? If you look at VIRTUS.PRO, it's basically been Old Boy, clutched out the 1v2s, clutched out the 1v3s, helping them get the wins. Whereas on Na'Vi's side, it's just everyone's doing pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they get in a good position, we saw that previous game, they can close it off in really strong fashion. And I think that this is the Na'Vi we wanted to see in Phase 1. Yeah. Sure, it took time for them to reach that point, but Phase 1, I think for a lot of the teams, was them just getting used to the lobby, coming up with a game plan that's going to be efficient in Phase 2 and Phase 3 to hopefully reach the finals and perform there. So I think they've reached that point, so now we're going to hopefully see if they can remain on that like kind of steady incline as the days go on.
And speaking of being efficient, I mean, to be a great team, you obviously have to perform, but to be an amazing team, to be the best team, you really got to use those off days, the downtime to really improve it. It seems like Na'Vi have been able to reflect on, obviously, what happened in the first phase, and people out there wondering why we keep criticizing Na'Vi so harshly when it came to the first phase. It's because of this. We know what they can do. We know they can put up big numbers. We know they can win matches. It's just we weren't seeing it. But you know what? I'm happy to see them finally showing what they've got, and hopefully, in the next few days, we'll continue to see that. But for now, we're going to head over to John Allen and Blank here to close out our day here for a final match.
We have got that one more game left to play. I know it's pesky, but we've got to go over to Miramar Blank, and I won't take no for an answer. You coming with me?
I can't say no. I have to go. I have no choice in the matter. Okay. Well, that's fine, because I love Miramar, and it's the place I want to be all the time, as long as I have, like, Navy SEAL strength sun cream. Then we're okay.
Oh, right. Okay. I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. That is true. Yeah. I think I would need something similar. Get me to water treatment, because I definitely am going to need something.
Yeah, we could have ourselves a jacuzzi in water treatment. It'd be fun. It'd be so hot over there, we wouldn't even need the bubbles. We'd just be boiling in the water. A couple of breadsticks as well, yeah.
A boiled Brit soup, I think, is what it would be over there.
That's right.
In Miramar on the north side, but we're getting into our 5th and final match of the day. No more to be seen from chart toppers Na'Vi. Not for today anyway. We'll have to wait until tomorrow for that delectable treat. No, instead, we're going to see the stretch out coming through from the teams to try and bump them off that top spot to end out the first day. VIRTUS.PRO, PIONER, Unicorns of Love, MADBULLS, all within striking distance, but there is quite a hefty way to go between them.
Yeah, it's quite difficult right now with Na'Vi sat at 62 points. And yeah, I was equally as surprised as the boys on the desk, where it was 15 to 31. Quite an astonishing lead in terms of eliminations. Only people that are really that, and I say close, is MADBULLS with 21, but they're still 10 eliminations behind. But Na'Vi, now we talked about balancing out those points a little bit with their placement points being slightly behind. They're now exactly at 31 placement points and 31 elimination points, which is so satisfying. So thank you, Na'Vi, for rounding out the day in such a way. Meku, Matic, 10, 9 apiece. They're looking good at the moment. They're looking really good, John. But VIRTUS.PRO in this match would love to bring those points just up a little bit.
Absolutely. 22 points behind right now. VIRTUS.PRO behind Na'Vi. PIONER, 22 points as well. Obviously not having the chicken dinner that VIRTUS.PRO have at the moment. It's going to be there. Did you catch those damage numbers? 1,800 coming through. At the top there. I think that was for Matic, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, coming in on Matic's side. 1,850 damage so far over 4 games is pretty nutty. That's almost that's got to be like a 400 point, 450 average per game.
It is seriously ridiculous. I think we were looking at players coming in with top damage towards the end of phase 1. I think it was like around about 8,000 or something like that. So, you know, he's made up like a quarter of it already, which is ridiculous. It's very much insane.
It is kind of nuts. And Tixi wasn't too far behind, 1,500. That is looking pretty spicy, and I think Effect was in 3rd with around the same. But Matic at the moment absolutely pumping today. To be fair, MADBULLS have also played their 4 games, and a couple of the teams that will be sat a little bit further behind them will still need their final chance to have their entry. I'm looking at Old Boy from VIRTUS.PRO, obviously the most prolific member of their team today.
Absolutely. I think for VIRTUS.PRO, maybe this is a game where they can pick the pace back up again. Arab Champions and Death Machine going at it again. Come on, guys. You've got to stop this brawling that you're having over towards Picardo. It's every single time.
And Death Machine are done.
Yep, that's it done. Good job, Arab Champions.
4 points. Nice one.
All I'm going to say is Death Machine hit them first. So, you know, this is justified.
Yeah, absolutely.
An eye for an eye.
That is absolutely how everything should work. Eye for an eye.
You should take that back right now. I was joking. Psych!
Speaking of, you stole my chocolate bar from the green room.
No, I didn't. That wasn't me.
Give me my chocolate bar.
I'll if I come down to your ends,
yeah,
which will take me like 3 hours, then sure.
Way. Yeah.
I'll bring a chocolate bar with me.
Okay.
In the meantime, TJB are attempting to find yet again place to stay.
Where are they gonna go?
I don't know. TJP's rotations are just... I don't want to say aimless because I'm sure they have a plan. But it feels like they don't.
Are they playing as 2 teams?
Yes.
Right
now.
If you play as 2 teams, you have double the chance to win, right?
Yeah, that is true, yeah. You also get 30 points for a chicken dinner at the end of the game because you get 2 15-pointers.
It's great. Tell you who isn't going to win.
Who?
Death Machine.
Yeah, because they're out. They're done so.
They're all dead.
Down to 15 teams already. A little bit less aggressive day 1 here of phase 2 than phase 1.
True.
I think we did see a lot of teams going down. We usually get into a game and it'd be 14 teams. You know, we were trying to pick up PMWI antics, going directly and we're like, no, we want 12 teams. 16 is too much. We need more rotational space. It's like,
shotguns, go!
Exactly. That's kind of the point, guys. You got to figure out the rotations. I like that. The shadows. It's been painted in. You know, we've come to Miramar a little bit earlier. It wasn't ready yet. Okay.
We're just preparing it. Here's one I made earlier.
Here's one I made earlier.
That's a very
Exactly.
British reference, I think.
It's quite Blue Peter. Is that Blue Peter? I'm pretty sure that's Blue
That is Blue Peter, yeah.
God, what a good show.
What a show. You've got your badge. I've got my badge. We've all got our badges.
Well, if you don't have a badge, let us know. We'll get you a Blue Peter badge.
I don't think...
All you need to know is that it is a medallion of significant power.
It is true. To be fair, I went to a lot of places for free with that badge. It was very good.
Yeah, so if you don't have a Blue Peter badge, now you know that you need to get one. You will earn significant respect from any British person that you meet. You might not meet a lot, but, you know, if you come to a show...
Still put it on my CV.
There you go, yeah, exactly. It's good stuff. NEXUS, though, I think at the moment on their CV is just missing out on 12th place last time in Phase 1, which is, you know, it's okay to have on the CV because, you know, it makes you look kind of good, but also it's not great. You know, it's your biggest strength and your biggest weakness at the same time in the interview. But they were a bit upset by MUERTE.
Oh.
Yeah, one of those. But they were a bit upset with
weakness
MUERTE.
is trying too much.
Exactly. But it is what it is. You lose out to MUERTE. I think MUERTE had a fantastic game on the last one of Phase 1. By last one, I mean the Game 5, not the Livic game. But NEXUS, they were hitting some good games. Unfortunately, they just weren't able to transition through to a top side. I think SHOCKWAVE is probably our biggest surprise of... Goodbye. SHOCKWAVE is probably my biggest surprise of the tournament so far, John.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, I mean, just from last season to this season, I think there's been some ridiculous improvement made. Like, it feels like a brand new team. Even though they're playing with very similar players than before.
Yeah.
The Q-Lash group. And if you hate me saying Q-Lash, I am doing it as a joke.
Take it up with them.
also hates it.
Take it up with them. Yeah. Should have spelled the name weirdly, you know?
Exactly. Clash. No.
Clash. No.
Q-Lash.
Q-Lash. That's right.
It's more like it.
What are you going to say? What are you going to say now? What is that sentence? What is the end of that sentence? What's the end of it? I want to know. Come on. Tell me.
It's done. It's done.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, no. There was definitely another word. What were you going to say?
No, it's over.
Oh, okay.
Game Lord is in the center, and that's what I wanted to talk about.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, like...
Go on. I dare.
Well, no, that was the end of the sentence. I thought that's just how we
okay.
finish sentences now.
Right, I see. Fair play. Game Lord, though, center of the map. Seems to be getting this quite often now. Yeah, works out for them. They're around Hacienda del Patron. They did move down from water treatment, so it's not a case of just stagnating.
I don't like this skin.
This one, it's a good skin. It's a great skin. Look at it.
Put those ears away. To be fair, it does blend in quite well on Miramar.
Actually, tactical skin choice. I remember the bus being so egregiously obvious when it's like passing through terrain. Having this kind of skin is going to really help you out.
I'm just a cat.
I am
Ignore
just
me.
a Miramar-coloured cat.
I'm just a Miramar cat.
That's all you need. How have we
Reckon they
gone
feed-
from such
they feed this-
amazing... Stop.
They feed the strays in Miramar for sure.
No. We went from amazing plays from Old Boy and hype antics to Miramar cat. And I won't allow it. We're ending the first day of Phase 2 well, okay? All right?
Miramar cat.
Look what Matic and Tixie has done today. This has been a great day. No more Miramar cat. All right?
Myself a Miramar cat.
No analysis time. All right? Analysis time. Look, I have to do it now because look at the circle. I've not had enough time to do any of it. But yes.
Miramar cat. Oh, all right, Miramar cat, take it away.
I will. I'm not going to meow on broadcast. Do it. Do it. Los Leones down towards that south side. Quite difficult to get through here, John, actually. With the hilly terrain towards Picado and the foothills on that side, you're going to see a lot of teams coming in from the east, from Hacienda del Patron. They're starting to group up now because they want to see themselves across this ridge line that looks down towards Picardo. You don't want to get caught down towards Picardo just purely because you don't want to be on the low ground. You want to get shot from above. It's one of those things that you might consider going into should we get a south shift on the circle, but it will have to be very definite onto Picardo's position. You give up a nice ridge line up towards the northeast side of this circle this early on, it's all over for you at that point in time. You know, you're playing for 5th place if you're lucky. So a lot of these teams just looking for some higher ground to play around with. Not too much fighting going to be going on, hopefully, although the northeast side is extremely packed.
Certainly getting a lot of teams in much closer proximity. The only team to have lost a player at the moment, other than Death Machine, who lost all 4 very early, is Ruthless Esports. That's out on the western side, out to the west of Power Grid near Monte Nuevo. They currently sit on our screens on that crossroads. So 3 players strong. That elimination was picked up by Shockwave earlier. You see a little bit further north, Big. South of that still, and will be holding in the side of the warehouse for now before the next circle shrinks. We've got a little bit of time before that happens, and a little bit of time before they have to move.
Yeah, at this point in time, most people will just be hanging around, just looking for compounds to play in. Power Grid been in the central as well. You don't really want to get caught up in the electrical fences and wires of that area. So most teams sticking around on the edges. Do you get one player going down? That's from TJB. That's Lin out. And again, they're still playing with one player out of the way. And I did say his last game with Lin being one of the most insane scouts I've ever seen, often just dying on the approach, but at least he gives that information back.
Information highly, highly valuable. As valuable as Lin, though? I'm sure Navallo picks that point for the French team, who have yet to shine today. They've really struggled so far. They are on that struggle bus gaming right now. Currently, I think they're sat all the way down in 19th. With that extra point, they'll be on 7 points total, which is really far from ideal.
Yeah, very far. 100%. A long, long way away. You know, you're a whole motorway behind at this point in time. But yeah, goodness me. I mean, a lot of teams down here that we'd expect. Eastern Stars, Big, QODEX, Game Lord, Arab Champions. I mean, QODEX and Big in particular, 11 and 6. QODEX really have fallen from grace over the past couple of weeks. And honestly, their fall continues at the moment with the wings burning up on the way down. Currently just outside Power Grid though, so they do have a chance this game to maybe pump up those points just a little bit. They'll be able to hold out a lot of these teams coming across the road, but they will have to make a decision on which side they want to hold on. I just think with the amount of teams that can hold in this previous circle, the amount of ridges, the amount of compounds to play in, you do have to just pick a singular spot. You can't play this line that they were going for before, because it is just going to end up with you in tears, essentially, when several different teams engage you on all different fronts.
It's not great. Oh dear, Octavian. Has he wedged it? He might have done. It's got a very long body on the Marauder. You do have to be careful. It's quite undulating, the terrain. Can be difficult, but you can just smash into another car. You'll be able to dislodge it fairly easily. Pioneer, close to Big, could be a sticking point on the west side of Power Grid. They will come into conflict. Fash looking for the sprays. Off angle found. Havlik able to get the first on towards Mazzaro. A player close. Mihi. Can he be dealt with? UMP around the side of the rock, around the side of the terrain. But the shots are going over towards his team. It's not going to matter. The readjust from Fash is on point. Looking for that first aid. Swave swings out wide. Can he stick the heel? Beast cannot push forwards super far, but Fash does get found, does get taken down. There is some revenge. Mihi will be in a reservoir position, but do they have the time? Havlik rolls around the side, leaves them at 2. Look at the pressure being exerted by Pioneer. Medkit being popped in, but is it too little too late? Swave needs to stand up, get some more knocks for the squad. Swave is down, and they will be able to take out Big. Pioneer with 3.
The fact that Fash actually goes to fight the guy behind the tree, I just completely ignores the guy on his side and then just goes to the spray transfer in the end. I mean, he has no chill whatsoever. It's like, if you're not going to fight me, I'll just shoot your teammates. It's fine. You're not very good at flanker right now to me. But yeah, SHOCKWAVE does come in and tries to save the day. By that point, Fash has already done a lot of the damage. Unfortunately, he goes down though because he is one of the big fraggers on the team of Pioneer. Having him up and alive is fairly useful to them. Again, though, they are starting to fight through these positions. They're in the blue currently. We will get our next circle soon, which will really dictate the game. For teams like Eastern Stars, for Romanian Men, and Ruthless Esports, who have moved into like that valley on the eastern side, if it doesn't move down that way, you know, you are going to be suffering. Now, this is a weird circle, to say the least, because maybe Picado's in, but there'll be teams that will want to mainly take the high ground here and move to Picado later. So this is going to be a huge brawl on the northern side for position and for particularly one of the few compounds in this area. Arab Champion's been here already, though, is a really good shout for them. These teams down towards the southeast, though, will want to just take up position in Picado and pray to God that the circle moves down south.
Romanian Men lose a player. Eastern Stars were stuck in a little bit of conflict. I saw the elimination feed there. There's an Orm in play in the hands of QODEX. Vito operating that one. So have to be careful on those sightlines. But hang on a minute, I think Vito might have been knocked actually by Team Doom over on the south peak of their position. So maybe that Orm, the boomstick, has changed hands.
Perhaps. Phantom goes down. This is them trying to push towards QODEX's position. They have regrouped here. I think QODEX is down to just 3, though.
They are for the time being. SHOCKWAVE spotted out. For Romanian Men lose another player. Team Doom trying to move up this ridgeline. Potentially need to move a little bit further east instead. Easy is knocked, and only 2 of them remain. The ARB squad ahead is going to be a really difficult position to deal with on the top of that rock.
Yeah, I mean, we always expect this to happen. So many teams are just trying to shift their way over towards the southeast side of Power Grid. VP are flying down from the northern side, as are Unicorns of Love. Game Lord made a quick heads-up decision to head towards that ridge side on the southeast. Fairly safe rotate, I would say. They are in very close distance towards some of the warehouses in this position, so they can take up some kind of safety on this side of the map. Maybe just pray to God they're able to make it towards the end side. VP hugely close to Arab Champions. Let's see what they can do versus them.
SHOCKWAVE moves forwards. There's a downed player there for Pioneer. Nightmare puts the ordnance down range, forces Black-White out. And he burns away. Still right on the edge of the smoke, but that nade will do the trick. Aza is able to be the one to pick that point up. Shots back and forth. Team Doom jousting with Nightmare. Nightmare hits the deck behind the smoke and suppresses the ridgeline effectively. 5 first aids can stop and heal here, but will need to get a move on. Zero blocked behind that smoke. They have the top of the ridge as well.
No vehicles, though, means that this team is not as mobile as SHOCKWAVE. Or at least as Aza here. It moves up just behind Unicorns of Love. It's going to be a bit rough for him.
Yeah, that's not great. Roll kiss sits it down. Crypto gets the final spray. Team Doom still fighting it out with QODEX this time as they try and move a little bit further north. Everybody in this northwest edge going to really struggle now. Unicorns of Love actually might be able to turn it around and just sort of sweep back down towards that position, but you move closer to ARB. QODEX between them and Team Doom. Everybody is getting punished here.
Yeah, Unicorns of Love crashing upon the rocks here. QODEX taking damage, Icy. I think Unicorns of Love are really the only team that has found the most success here. They rotate in front of everyone and then heard so much fighting over this side and took a heads-up decision to just run in, try and sweep it, get the third party going. This means there's so much less teams that are going to be able to go against them later on in the game. So I think this works out well for them. Get Crypto back up on his feet whilst the circle's not moving. I think this was a good decision from Unicorns of Love, and now they can start to make their way down towards that southeast side towards Arab champions who have some really good spots, and Maxman predicts them. It's slightly unfortunate though. The other two predictions are for Game Lore, but they find a knock onto him.
Okay, that's a little bit of an opening, Game Lord. Taking on TJB right now, but Xiao might ruin the day. Rops as well goes down. Excellent sprays from Xiao to shut down Game Lord's approach. I think it's just Narvalo now. Oh wait, there are two potentially. No, Victor did die already. Now, it is just Narvalo for Game Lord. Oh, great.
Predicts TJB, dies. Predicts Game Lord, TJB, kill Game Lord.
Ruin the day.
This is just cruelty from TJB. They've got something massively against the desk, unfortunately. Tingsker has to drop down, realizes that, you know, being prone here is not going to be helpful versus the dude that has practically the good angle, but there's a shot from GK first. We'll take him down.
There's the issue with that sort of position as well, though, is you're so isolated. Getting these reses, very, very difficult. And if you can get them, they're incredibly time-consuming. You limit the other angles that you're able to hold, and it can prove to be a problem. Unicorns of Love now skirting around the foothills, using that overhang incline to cover themselves off for the time being.
Arab champions hoping that it will end up on one of these rock faces. They're here early, so they got set up early as well. It's a really strong spot. It's very hard to deal with this as well. TJB going down with 4 eliminations. That's an 8th place there. Take Aim Gaming, Ruthless Esports, these are the two teams down towards the southeast, and they did what we expected them to do, which is take up residence in Picado. Hope there's a south shift, but in this case, it's more about survival than anything.
Nexus Gaming will need to push in. ARB gonna have to leave their position as well.
Yeah. That's the
south.
That's the main thing, right? Is that both spots the ARB hoped it would go to, it has fallen outside of. So this is a really good time for ARB to just show us what they're made of. And instead of having like one of those game-winning positions where it's really impossible to lose from, now they're gonna have to regroup, recoalesce.
It's all on Yankee for VIRTUS.PRO against the Lone Ranger for Game Lord, and we'll be able to keep them going for now with no Old Boy. The rest of the team have their chance to shine in terms of their points gain. Their attempt at this game. Nexus on the hillside do find some little spots of cover. Unicorns of Love behind them in the queue, and ARB are ahead as well. Right on the top of the headland there.
Fortunately, taking a bunch of damage from the players down in Picado, where that's just a case of this is our time. We suffered in the depths, in the lowers of Picado, and now you have to come off the mountain to us. Fortunately for them, Nexus is able to take some shots down towards Take Aim Gaming and shut down one of those angles. The Arab champions are still up on high, and they're going to be waiting to leave this position. It's going to be a long, long time before you see them dropping off, and VP has to stay underneath because they just cannot move down without exposing themselves to both angles. Arab champions as well as Unicorns of Love.
8 eliminations already. That could be good if it finds the apex. Not quite finding the damage onto Hamodi. There's the burn and the shots from downtown as well. Jamaz takes that opportunity to send it right down off the mountainside in the buggy. Take Aim Gaming not quite able to land that Hamo. He knows there's a Unicorn here. Can't push around it with that Molotov. Unicorns will need to descend, and Icy makes that first maneuver, that first push. Crypto,
be a good name.
A little bit closer to the blue. Icy skimming around, trying to find rock cover here from the players in the town. Ruthless might have to worry about Take Aim Gaming, but they might have put a pause on proceedings in the meantime. Ruthless, Take Aim Gaming, they are going to joust out a little bit back and forth and allow the Unicorns to move down. A team, by the way, who is really competing for that top spot in this scenario.
Absolutely. For VIRTUS.PRO at the moment, it's just a case of survival, but Yankee getting knocked there. Now it's up to Mia. Has the side swipe, though.
Oh, not going to be able to land the spray. Jamaz is up and ready to frag in time. He'll be able to pick that up. Everybody starting to flag that resources dwindling. No smokes for IC. Nexus have their lone player as well. Redox down the hill. Unicorns of Love, they want to take that top spot away from Na'Vi on the tables. 8 eliminations and a 5th place guaranteed. They're going to be very close towards the end of the day.
It's been a huge game from them. Arab Champions leave a couple of players behind. They were stuck in a really awkward position there, but I think Unicorns of Love just used up practically all of their utility. Crypto finds a knock onto take aim. Aiming there, down below.
Crypto spotted, but there is a trade, not an individual trade, but a third party. Redox spotted. IC moves in and a little bit panicked there. You would be. There's so many angles you need to be worried about. Worried about the players from ARB pushing on in, but they're very, very heavily damaged right now. They can't really manage that push. They can't marshal it. And quite frankly, why would they want to push out of the zone? Get rid of that thorn in the side. Redox might be able to do a lot of work here. A lot of low health bars. Spots the players on the broad side. Goes for one. Doesn't quite get any of the sprays, but now Icy might be able to trump from the top rope. Unicorns of Love ladder up yet again. Don't think he's aware of those health bars, though, as ARB looking to leave. Are they aware there's another player? Hamo seems to be worried there's something there.
I think they think he's on this line, but he's not. Not able to get the instant knock, though. Sadly, it goes so low. We'll go down in 4th place. Still good for 8 eliminations. RUTHLESS Esports, on the other hand, they've been taking a fight all on their own versus Take Aim Gaming, trying to be clear of them out before the Arab Champions can make their long haul, their long hike down the hill. And Arab Champions, Max's prediction, might have just made a very, very difficult rotation happen.
I mean, Ruthless took the fight with Take Aim Gaming, but they gave away that presence on the outlook for the descent. And with it, maybe their chance of victory. A lot of damage still coming on through, but Take Aim Gaming go down in the final game of the day. ARB champions wanting to put points up on the board, wanting to start to compete. This is a good time to start. They were right at the bottom of the tables at the start of this game, but now with 12 eliminations and 3 more on the cards, they could bring themselves up to a 30-point game, which would be phenomenal to close out the day for them.
Yeah, they'd be jumping up the leaderboards very, very quickly there. And again, at the end of the day, you do want to just keep pumping those points in to your leaderboards rankings, just because the overalls and making sure you're towards the top of the tables gives you a hefty chance towards the finals. It's always worth it. I think Arab Champions, even if you're getting a win right at the end of the day, as long as it's a big one, you're fine with it.
Ulysses traded off 1 for 1, but it's not going to be enough. The numbers advantage is good, and it is a big chicken dinner to close out the day. The ARB champions coming in clutch with their final performance on the day.
There you go. It's Max Man, the prediction man, will pick up the Arab champions, despite them even having a rough rotation again. But I do think this is almost what I would call a junior team mistake, right? Even though we know RUTHLESS Esports is quite experienced. Take Aim Game, on the other hand, you know, they have some newer players in there, but this is a case where you really have to get your priorities straight. In which case, Take Aim Game and RUTHLESS Esports, they have to work together there. With Arab champions coming down from that massive long hike where they have so much oversight onto that position, you know, Take Aim Gaming and also RUTHLESS Esports should put us just be pressing the start button immediately. Press pause on your own fight and then look towards that hillside. That's where the problems are coming from. And then after that, you can duke it out for that 2nd and 1st place comfortably. But you have to have that agreement from time to time between teams, even if it means like sending a smoke wall between one another and then just focusing on the real threat at hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as well, not only that, ARB champions, they felt like there were 2 or 3 times that they could have been taken down on that hillside by not only the teams from the town, but from Redox from Nexus, from Icy from Unicorns of Love as well. It felt like Icy kind of missed a beat there, to be honest, on not getting an initial knock and not getting a spray down, as Hamodi triples up on the salute.
It's still really hard, but again, Icy in that situation really feels like he should be able to get the heads up on them. Just considering there should be teams from Picardo taking shots up towards them, right? The third party should be coming in at that point, in which case Icy, with the limited attention that Arab Champions have on him, should be able to get some knocks. But unfortunately, all 4 of Arab Champions turn around and just laser in on Icy's position, just easily able to take him down. So again, Arab Champions, it was a hard win for them, but I do think they were kind of bailed out by the teams at Picardo.
Oh, we're going to bail out as well, as we're going to head over to the desk to break down that Miramar.
Well, not only are they going to be happy, but so is Maxman. Finally getting a prediction right. Actually, you got 2 right on the day, if I'm not mistaken. So congrats to you. However, it was the most obvious choice. And, you know, Clarus and I don't like to choose the obvious teams.
I can never win with you guys, I have the impression. What's this about? Okay, I get prediction fair and square. Okay, I predict the same time as you guys, even before you 2 even predicted, and I get it. Okay, it's my moment. Okay, don't ruin it. Thank you, Jason. What's that? But yeah, as already stated by also John and Flank during that game, they were a little bit saved, I feel like, by some of the teams that weren't Picardo, because the fact that Picardo was still in the circle, was that 3-4 hard shifts straight south inside the northern side of Picardo. That doesn't happen very often. So they still were able to keep Ruthless and also keep Tag as a 4-man crew and just like continuously spread teams trying to go down. So just makes the numbers dwindle and a little bit easier to remain up.
I can hear the frustration out of Clarus. Go ahead, Clarus.
Just like the hard shifts, I need to go hard on these shifts. Quite honestly, this was, you can't account for this. It's so rough to play this out, I must say. Like the fact that all of these teams, they're gearing up on the top of these hills, thinking no, it's not a hill, it's a cliff face. Like they're gearing up, looking good, looking strong. Technically, Arab Champions had like one of the best spots, and of course they're probably going to get the victory if it goes up there, but then they have to be tested by all of these shifts down towards Picardo and then still get the win. That's quite impressive, I must say, all things considered. Pretty crazy stuff.
I saw the only way for them to survive is just to jump out in the buggy to avoid taking any full damage. So like literally a cliff, they couldn't quite survive without the car themselves. So still, yeah, a really good game from them. The thing is with the team is that they tend to have some up and down tendencies we saw in phase 1. So I'd like to see it followed up potentially in the following phase.
I mean, 30 points is phenomenal. That is going to shoot you up so far in the leaderboards. But in the grand scheme of things, if you can't maintain a pace like that, maybe not exactly that pace, that would be ridiculous, then you're not really going to still, you know, place super high in the standings before we get into our special Olympic match. So we need to see a little bit more out of them. I definitely agree, but at least for their sake, great to see a team have a position like that. Obviously, the zones didn't really go in their favor completely, but they still capitalized. I mean, 30 points. They got 15 eliminations behind that. We can't forget that. That's probably that has to be their biggest point scoring match period so far within BMPL.
I mean, as you say, like, obviously they have a great spot. And technically, if the zone is shifting south down these cliff faces, if you're not in the compound down towards Picardo, they have one of the better staging points to try and transition down the cliff. But it is still extremely difficult to find the right spots to be able to go down to the next tier on this cliff when you need to know that there's no team kind of, or even snakes sneaking around there, you know, Wito Niñas trying to hide wherever they can. So you got to be very, very careful about that. And they approached it extremely respectfully to all of the potential circumstances that could come along.
Yeah, and I know we were all a little bit frustrated to see the hard shifts head towards south because it's a cliff. You're on the edge of the world, which we were there not too long ago. But to transition, I think it was what, Jammas, trying to use inner hawk with the buggy, just jumping off the cliff, trying to crash into someone. But yeah, still, either way, well done by them. They dealt with the shifts, like you said, Clarus. They dealt with the circumstances, and they came out with a victory. So great job by them, and we'll take a look at overalls in just a little bit of time. But before we get to that, I think this is going to be probably the most interesting MVP selection out of all 3 of us we've had so far, because it could really go so many different ways with the performances we've seen today.
I think Old Boy could still be up there, but also Navi had a good day. I feel like I have to stick with Old Boy. Yeah, I think Old Boy is the obvious choice, seeing how many clutches he did today. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, keep in mind, also damage is a big portion of it, but he did have like 1,300 damage, I think, before in the 3rd match done. I don't actually know where I'd want to go. I think Max almost convinced me talking about, was it Matic?
Matic had that really big game too, right? Where he eliminated almost all of Game Lord. It could... it's a close one. I'm not sure. It's probably between those 2.
Okay, well, let's just check out who our MVP is going to be then. Because Old Boy did have a fantastic performance. If he didn't get it by the numbers, he deserved it by the plays. And it's going to be Matic coming through. So add one to the tally for Jason Kaplan.
No, this doesn't count. No.
I mean, to be fair, Matic did well, but I think if we were to give it MVP, it definitely would have been Old Boy for the single-handed performance.
Style points.
Twice.
Yeah, just the style points, I think, come into play there for sure for him. But, I mean, this is Na'Vi that we wanted to see in Phase 1. It took some time to get there, right? And you stated it earlier, Kalaris. We're looking at the leaderboards currently where you're seeing Na'Vi on top, you're seeing VIRTUS.PRO on top, you're seeing also PIONER doing really well at some point during the day.
Yeah.
This is a lot closer to the initial expectations you had heading into this season, right? So now that Na'Vi are here, the question is, can they remain on this type of like gameplay overall and these type of results? If so, they can easily catch up for their poor Phase 1 performance.
Yeah, absolutely. So
there you go.
Crazy stuff to see, really, coming in over the course of even just today. And it's funny because it's VIRTUS.PRO, it's Na'Vi, the two names that we thought, but also actually, you know, I'm not even going to spoil it because we'll see it in the overalls. But yeah, so far these two teams have been looking really on point.
Well, you know what? We can't get to overalls quite just yet.
Oh, okay.
We got to recap everyone's mind and knowledge of what happened today. Let's take a look at our results throughout the day. And honestly, it was an extremely exciting day. I'm pretty happy with how like Phase 2 kicked off here because we got to see Unicorns of Love step up here and get themselves a chicken dinner off the bat.
Yeah, Unicorns of Love, that's been steadily improving throughout all of Phase 1. It's good to see that actually result in a win on the start of this second phase. I'm overjoyed to see them actually being able to get some good results here. And Shockwave too, as already stated beforehand during Phase 1, they have been making a lot of iterations internally for the team in terms of how they play together, how they approach every single circle on each map. So there, so far, it seemed like they've been able to find some success. It's still hard to remain consistent with a lobby this high tier for the Western European region, but it's good to see some improvements actually pay off, especially for Na'Vi in the second phase.
I will say, though, I think that our previous Western Europe teams are going to have to look at today and think to themselves, that there is a big problem on the horizon here, which is mounting and mounting. Because even in games where VIRTUS.PRO, Na'Vi, and Pioneers are not getting themselves wins, etc., they're still playing very, very well. And this is not looking good for Western European teams.
Or maybe it is good. Maybe they needed that extra kick, you know, of some better teams coming in and really showing that you guys need to continue to work. Because if you want to beat the likes of the best teams in the world, if you want to dethrone Nova, you're going to have to be better. But Klaris, you actually alluded to this earlier on. Let's take a look at our overalls and see how things have shaped up here for our teams. And we already know VIRTUS.PRO, Na'Vi to be very high up in the leaderboards. Pioneer, though, I'm curious to see where they're going to be. And actually, 4th place again. This team just consistently in top 5, but they can't seem to lock down wins.
Yeah, it's not quite a shift for them. It's just a consistently consistent, strong position. So I'm okay with that. One surprise that for me, though, is damn, Ruthless actually pumping up all the way to 3rd place here after having what was a reasonably, at the start of Phase 1, just a non-existent performance. Like, when we expect them to be doing better than that. I mean, quite a few of these points come off the 2nd place that they got on themselves in the Erangel, but they have been far more present here throughout the first day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I had my heart broken too many times by Ruthless in the past to like say, oh, this is good. Like, can they follow it up? That's the big question. Do we always have for Ruthless? Is sure, you had a decent performance. Now I want to see them if they can close off games, get into the late game as a 3 or 4-man squad. If they can do that, then I might change my opinion, but I still need to see more from these guys.
Yeah, the thing is that with like the change in format, right? If you're a team who is a flash in the pan kind of team, and obviously if things do line up going into Game Lord, QODEX, a little bit rough there on the very bottom. So you hear Max die a little bit on the inside. Even Death Machine extremely low here considering, but again, one day. But if you're one of those teams that is like very flash in the pan, you can have a great 3 days of play when it comes to the finals, and you know, congrats, you can qualify for the next event. With this format now, it's not so easy anymore because you could see yourself almost 80 points behind the #1 team, and that's a big gap for you to claw away at. So yeah, consistency, we definitely see how these teams loving the new format, and I really can't wait to see how it actually wraps up when we get into the finals.
Yeah, I think the finals are going to be very interesting, and I think the CIS teams, more than any other team here, they really want it because they know their only entry point true. I mean, technically, they could try and get a lot of points throughout each phase and potentially qualify that way. It seems extremely unlikely, seeing how much of a lead like Eastern Stars and Game Lord have. Their goal is here to make it into the finals, then qualify top 8 in the finals to go to the championship, and through the championships, qualify for PMGC. That is their only way, so they're using this as somewhat training ground to get ready for the Turkish team, and I can tell you, this lobby versus the Turkish teams already well established in those championships, I think that's going to be a great clash, so you need to prepare fully for that event that's going to be coming up.
Oh, I'm prepared. I know we're all prepared as well, and you guys should be prepared on top of that, but we can't get to that quite just yet. We still have more PMPL action to happen before we get into our European Regional Championship. We'll be back tomorrow, though, at the exact same time, though, for day 2 of Phase 2, and we'll see you guys then.
have forever. Maybe I could take your pain and turn it into pleasure.